Basil.
Stephen.
How are we?
Not bad.
Good. How's your day been?
Productive.
Relaxing?
Yeah.
Bit quiet at the moment.
I think everywhere
Sun's
is,
out.
isn't it?
Everyone's going camping.
I think even the roads are a little bit, I think everywhere is just a little bit quiet, you know what I mean? I think everyone's just out camping. And
Oh,
stuff
there we
like that.
go. There we
Chill
go.
like that.
Oh, the dulcet tones of Mr. Basil.
Ooh.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's a bit of chill time. We get to plant our plants outside, take care of our houseplants. Houseplants are on the website now.
Take care of your ones.
Yeah, Barry had to come and rescue the podcast plants because they've been under green light and haven't been watered for a week. So, what is it this week? What are we doing? Podcast 227.
Medicinal plants.
Medicinal plants. Everything from a timeline of medicinal plants, which is quite interesting. I like that article by Jesse. Cold-tolerant veggies, Albert Mondor. The veggies to grow and what you use outside to protect them. The rights of nature. That's quite a good one to debate about. Chitin, the secret to organic growing. Reservoir tank troubles. Rich Houghton goes through what can happen in your reservoir if it goes too hot, too cold. Good article. Callie Seaman talks about her trip to Denmark and a medicinal cannabis facility she was at. Cody talks about growing monster plants organically. And Martina Kroll talks about making comfrey tea. There's other articles in there, but the way we debate and talk, we're actually struggling to do a whole magazine in one podcast now. And then there's a little bit at the end, If We Let Science Win, which is a fiction piece by Everest Fernandez about what he believes the world will be like in 2048 if we let science win. I haven't read it, so we're going to wait till the very end. I'm going to read it out, and I haven't read it, so it'll be like a straight piece, reading fresh, and it'd be interesting to see what he's talked about there. So, Barry, let us kick off the partners. This week, it's different. So, we're going to go from top to bottom. I'm going to shout them out, and I want to know the first thing that comes to your mind when we say them, okay?
Yeah.
CANNA.
A and B.
AutoPot.
Aquavalve.
SANlight.
Q6W.
Can filter.
CANNA.
BudBox.
Grow tent.
Gavita.
Sick lighting.
Garden Culture Magazine.
Oh, fucking hell. Stuck on that one. Glossy back.
So we've got CANNA. You can follow them on Instagram at canna.uk.
I should have said, you know what I should have said? Adverts.
Yeah, adverts. So CANNA is Instagram, canna.uk.official, and their website is canna-uk.com. They've got all the information you need for not just growing with canna, but growing plants in general. Very good website. AutoPot are on Instagram at AutoPot_global and at AutoPot Cultivation Consultancy. The website is autopot.co.uk, another great website for exactly how to use the AutoPot. And they do a blog. They say where and when AutoPot's been used around the world. Very interesting website. SANlight are at SANlight_LED. That's their main page. And I've got a couple of others, SANlight UK and SANlight US. Depending on where you are in the world, you can follow them. Their website is SANlight.com. Brilliant website, specific obviously to SANlight, but how to hang them, what models to use on what size tent or room you've got. So if you're using SANlight, give their website a visit. Can Filters, Erwin at Erwin_canfilters and canfilters.nl for their Instagram. And their website is canfilters.nl. So you visit them if you need to know how to match up your fans and filters. If you can't get a straight answer from your shop. You've got BudBox on Instagram at BudBoxGrowTents, and the website is budboxgrowtents.com. Go on there because they've got every size tent imaginable for every space. So if you think that you might not be able to get a tent for your size space, go and visit them first because they probably can do a tent that's close enough for you. We have got Gavita. We've got a couple, which is at Gavita International, or if you're in America, at Gavita North America, and their global website is gavita.com. And last but by no means least, Garden Culture Magazine, which is the same on Instagram at Garden Culture Magazine, and the website, gardenculturemagazine.com. If you can't get your hands on the hard copy of the magazine, they've got, I forget what it's called now, but all versions of the magazine are available digitally, and you can literally scroll through them from the very first magazine to the latest one. Save paper, read it online. I'm one to speak, though, because I wouldn't read it online. I've got to have the physical copy in front of me.
Not a big reader.
I know
I flick through it every time, but
I know
I'm not
you like the pictures, don't you?
I like pictures and colour.
So, thank you very much to all of our partners. We'll be back after the break to talk about medicinal plants.
All good? Ready to go? Turn my voice up a little bit. Oh, God, for everyone watching, the whole family.
Are you ready to go? I built a beer in the house that I built, in the booth that I built.
I know people tune in every Sunday to listen, but even when business is good, we still manage to do the podcast.
So, Basil, name me a medicinal plant.
Tomato.
Why is it medicinal?
Just because it's good for you.
Vitamin C.
Yeah.
What's the weird shit just pops into my head? But
you say medicinal plant. Isn't any plant, sort of like any fruit plant, medicinal for you? Because it all has benefits for you. If you look at it like that.
Yeah, so every fruit plant
every fruit plant,
disease.
Every tree that produces a fruit or a veg
is good for you.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
It's all got something in it.
But that's preventative medicine.
What do you mean?
So eating lots of tomatoes and fruits and veg will prevent a lot of disease. But with medicinal plants, what they mean is plants that can cure disease.
Yeah.
So these are plants that not only prevent it, but will cure it. It's a bit of a touchy subject because in the world of science, they want proof and they want double-blind, randomized, controlled, placebo-controlled trials to prove it. And I think some pharmaceutical companies make more money off just making them synthetically.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of money goes into the research. And if there was, and he found out that a medicinal plant worked just as well as pharmaceuticals, they're not going to publish it because it's...
Share prices have dropped, companies are going out.
There's one at the end of the magazine, which we're not going to cover today. I will try to, but it's basically comfrey. So Martina Kroll talks about making comfrey tea, which is great for your plants. But then there's another article about the medicinal effects of comfrey. So it actually, we'll get into the article later, but there's loads. And I think a good way to kick it off would be to go to Jesse Singer's article on medicinal plants, a timeline. He's the fella that did the timeline last week, and we went through, what was it we did last week on the timeline? The history of hydroponics. That was it. So medicinal plants, a timeline. We go back all the way to 80,000 to 60,000 BC.
Fuck, you were just a nipper then.
I was. And you were doing sprints, weren't you? You were training.
I was at Twinkle.
You had lots of jet black hair back in them days. And you were living in the Neanderthal cave.
It's only gone grey since this podcast.
It's go grey once we start doing podcasts at 7:00 in the evening.
It's white now.
Yeah, it is.
Shh. Noisy ass watch.
Oh, creaky floorboards. Here we go. He's getting off.
Ta-da, mate. Just walk right through the live radio podcast set.
See you later.
Mate.
Peace, quiet.
It won't. You know what's going to happen next? You're going to hear the door chime go.
Now, you know what? We'll see, won't we? We'll go dead quiet and see if the door chime picks up on the podcast. Go quiet now. Let's see if it picks up. He's going to go and put all his cups away, isn't he?
He best had as well.
I know. Oof.
Oof, I mean.
First bit of language there off Bar Basil. Beep that out. So 80,000 to 60,000 BC, before Christ, in a Neanderthal cave, 1960, archaeologists exploring the Shanidar cave in Iraq discovered a Neanderthal burial site that dated back to 60 to 80,000 years. What they found was a body that had been buried with 8 different species of medicinal plants. Now, I know that they can discover this stuff, but do you think it's the imprint of the plant? Because obviously the plant wasn't there. So I wonder what they found buried with them. Was it like the
Seeds.
dried herbs, the seeds? Oh, look, there's a ding dong. I'm interested to see like what they discovered, but they have discovered medicinal plants 60 to 80,000 years ago, or before BC, which is before Christ. BCE, before Common Era. There's one that's better for a global podcast. Because BC's Christ, isn't it? It's like some people don't like it because it's the Christianity. Did you know that?
I'm not into any of it.
No, I'm not either. It's BCE. Have you come across that? Before Common Era.
It was 80,000 years ago to me.
It was actually 82. When it's 80,000 BC, it's actually 82,000 years ago because we're 2,000 years into the Common Era, aren't we? So there's one to fuck with your head.
So it's just 80,000 swerved to BC.
Yeah. Next, we've got 25,000 to 13,000 years ago. On the walls of the Lascaux caves in France, scientists discovered picture evidence of herbal medicines. And when they've radiocarbon dated them, they found that the images were between 13,000 to 25,000 years old. So pictures of people using medicinal plants. In 1991, the Otzi Iceman was discovered in the Swiss Alps, and the bodies from about 5,300 years ago. And strung around his waist was the birch fungi Piptoporus betulinus. The fungus is thought to have potentially been used to treat intestinal parasites, and that's why it was strung around the Iceman's waist. That's interesting.
Didn't work though because they found them.
No, they might not have found any lice though, might they? Might have been cured. He tripped over one of the hanging branches from his waist and fell to his death. 3,000 years ago, they had willow bark, so we found a stone tablet of medicinal remedies dating back to the 3rd dynasty, of which is basically Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Iran, and lists willow bark among the
I haven't
medicinal.
loads of famous, like when I say famous, I don't mean like celebrity famous, but like famous people being found with all medicinal seeds and everything in
You mean
there.
like Egyptian
Tutankhamun.
pharaohs? Tutankhamun, yeah.
He was found with all cannabis seeds, wasn't he?
Yeah, loads of people from the Egyptian times found with oils, seeds, incense, dried powders, all kinds. It's like the, one of my favourite traditions is, I don't know what era it was from, but used to put 2 pennies, and used to say 2 pennies for the ferryman. And because they used to say, you've got to pay the ferryman to get to the next life. And they used to put 2 pennies on the eyes of the dead, and it used to pay the ferryman to get to the next life.
Never heard of that.
1550 BC, so 1,500 years ago, the Ebers or the Ebers papyrus is one of the most important medical papyri of ancient Egypt. It contains 850 medicinal plants, including cannabis, juniper, aloe, mandrake, and once again, willow bark. And then you've got the Rig Veda. So the Rig Veda is one of the 4 canonical sacred texts of Hinduism, known as the Vedas, and the Sanskrit writings detail much of the medical knowledge that became the basis of the, I don't know how to say this, Ayurveda system or Ayurveda system, a holistic practice that promotes herbal medication as well as lifestyle like yoga and meditation and more. And that was between 1,500 to 1,200 years ago. Then we move into stuff that more people know about, Hippocrates, 460 to 380 years before Christ, so 2,500 years ago. And he was the father of medicine. It was the Hippocratic Oath, classified hundreds of herbs, and also developed a system of diagnosis and prognosis using herbs. So he's like, they call him the father of medicine because he was the first person to use science to help people with plants. But the Hippocratic Oath is what the doctors used to take. They used to say, first we do no harm, or something along those lines. And that was the doctor's oath as well, called the Hippocratic Oath. You look as though you're about to say something.
Oh.
What you're about to say?
No.
You enjoying this?
I'm enjoying it.
De Materia Medica, 60 years after Jesus died. Written by Dioscoro. Why these people got such long names? I can't fucking say them. Dioscorodes Demeteria medica is a unique
Imagine his mum shouting him in the park when he was a kid. Fucking hell.
I reckon you call your dog that.
Fucking hell.
Dioscorodes, get back here.
Fucking shouting that across the park.
Yeah. He wrote a text discussing 500 plants and preparations of about 1,000 simple drugs. It was the standard text for the next 1,500 years. Then we move into China. Like that, they still promote herbalism and herbal medicines. Shenong Ben Chaojing, and I've definitely said that wrong, but it is a Chinese book on agriculture and medicinal plants written sometime between 200 and 250 AD. The book's credited to let me start that one again. The book is credited to Emperor Shenong, who lived thousands of years before the book's publication. And the book names over 250 plants and their medicinal properties. And it is said that Shenong tasted all the herbs himself to determine their medical value. Then there's pictures from 754 AD of scientist Jabir in Hayyan, managed the first apothecary in history, which opened in Baghdad, offering herbal as well as some chemical remedies. And apothecaries grew through the Muslim world and made their way to the Western world, appearing in England by the 1300s. Foxglove. So in 1785, William Withering had a patient suffering from dropsy caused by heart failure. Traditional medicine wasn't working and the patient's family gave him a herbal brew. So when Dr. Withering examined the mixture, found that foxglove was in there, and this led to him publishing accounts of the foxglove and some of its medical uses.
Foxglove?
It's the poisonous plant that can give you a heart attack. But I think in this case, if you use a tiny amount of it, it can actually repair the heart. But please see a doctor before consuming any. Do not consume any foxglove. He provided over 200 examples of foxglove successfully treating dropsy and heart failure. 1804, things get interesting. Morphine. In the 1800s, pain was mostly treated with opium, but there was a problem with there's very little consistency in the quality, so it worked for some, wouldn't work for others. If a customer got a bad batch, just wouldn't ease the pain at all. But in 1804, after months of experimenting, the German pharmacist Friedrich Sirtone was able to extract morphine from the opium poppy, making it the first drug alkaloid ever isolated from a plant. So morphine was the first drug ever taken from the plant and used properly in medicine. 1822, the New Guide to Health or Botanic Family Physician. Self-taught American herbalist and botanist Samuel Thompson developed this. And to quote, one of the quotes from the book was, 1 ounce of the emetic herb, 2 ounces of cayenne, 1/2 pound of bayberry root bark in powder, 1 pound of poplar bark, 1 pint of rheumatic drops. This stock will be sufficient for a family for 1 year. With such articles, they can easily procure themselves when wanted and will enable them to cure any disease which a family of common size may be afflicted with during that time. The expense will be small and much better than to employ a doctor and have his extravagant bill to pay. So people healing themselves in the 1800s. In 1826, Merck, the big pharmaceutical company, begins commercially extracting purified alkaloids from medicinal plants. 1852, salicin. Scientists synthesized salicin, an active ingredient in willow bark, for the first time. And then in 1899, the drug company Bayer modified salicin into a milder form of acetyl salicylic acid, and aspirin is born. So, so from the willow...
Is that how old aspirin is?
Mm-hmm. Well, aspirin is the aspirin you know today is from 1899, but really it came from the willow tree bark, and that was salicin. And then an active ingredient, so salicin's the active ingredient in willow bark, and then you modified it to form acetyl salicylic acid, and that's what your aspirin is. 1910, Flexner Report. Basically, there was hundreds of medicinal universities training people how to heal themselves, and the Flexner Report basically wasn't based on science, wasn't rigorous testing of them. Basically ended up closing a lot of the medical schools where they studied, and this had the effect of pushing herbalism into the alternative medicine realm, which is how it's usually referred to today. Mao Zedong officially founded the People's Republic of China in 1949 and reintroduced traditional Chinese medicine heavily reliant on herbalism, and it's still in the Chinese healthcare system today. Then you've got 1954 and the vinblastine plant. Canadian physician Robert Noble and the Canadian organic chemist Dr. Charles T. Beer successfully isolated vinblastine from the Madagascar periwinkle plant. Vinblastine blocks cell division and as such as an anti-cancer ability, and this was landmark in cancer chemotherapy. The Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act came in 1944, and in 1955, estimates put the sale of herbal products in the US to 5.1 billion, and in China, manufacturing reached 2.5 billion. 1998, the WHO, World Health Organization, published the quality control methods for medicinal plant materials. 2002, 50,000 plants estimated being used around the world for medicinal purposes. Sales in China in 2005 reached 14 billion for herbal products. In the 21st century, 80% of the population, 4 billion people living in the world, 4 billion people living in the developing world, making up 80% of the world population, rely on herbal medicinal products as a primary source of healthcare. And that's where we're up to today.
Oh, that's just baffled me.
Mad, isn't it?
Mad.
I've got a book on medicinal herbs. I've never really read it or paid much attention to it, but we might end up revisiting this subject in the future and sort of going over the herbs, because they reckon, don't they, that for every disease, ailment, and what's the word? Every disease or there's something that people can suffer with. There's something out there to cure it.
Yeah, that's just if you look on the grand scale of things, though. It's like, I think you're a bit mad if you don't know that everything that's naturally on this earth is good for us, isn't it? Really, like as in, like plant-wise and food-wise, and
what about all the poisonous plants?
No, you know what I mean. Well, they're used to as I don't know, but there'll be something that they're used for.
Yeah.
That poisonous plant will have a purpose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It will. Maybe that poisonous plant to a point is going to be a toxicity level, isn't it? Like foxglove.
Yeah,
that's
like
poisonous,
said then, yeah.
But actually small amounts of it could cure or prevent heart disease. But I've got to say, do not go out and start messing with foxglove. Like, this is old stuff. Stick to what you know and what the doctor prescribes, because you can't just go and start picking foxglove because you heard it on this podcast. No, but do not do it.
It is, isn't it, though? Like everything that naturally grows on this earth, it's good for us.
Been put there for a reason, hasn't it?
Not potentially. It has been, hasn't it?
I wonder how much we've lost. Do you know what I mean? How much knowledge that we've lost. So if people have been using medicinal plants for the last 80,000 years, did one of them prevent cancer? Did one of them prevent Alzheimer's? Did one of them prevent...
Did someone nearly have a breakthrough and then died? And all his research just went to shit?
Yeah. Like...
Probably.
How much don't we know? How much is being kept from us?
Look, that's the worrying thing. It's not how much we know now. It's how much is being kept away from us and how much we don't know. Do you know what I mean?
That's the scary part, how much is being kept away from us. Because what we don't know...
It's a big money industry, lad. Let's have it right now. If these big pharmaceutical companies could take away all the Chinese, fucking look after yourself medicines, then they'd be even richer, wouldn't they? You know what I mean? There'd be more money in it for them.
Yeah, and I've seen some horrific videos of pharmaceutical owners. I can't remember his name. If the engineer's not with us today, he's got car problems like the rest of us. But I'd ask him to Google it, and there's a fella, and his pharmaceutical drug ended up, I don't know whether it killed a child or killed a few people, and he basically stood there, like sat there in the courtroom and just smiled the whole way through, and he just looked like satanic. Do you know what I mean? He looked like the devil. I need to find it and put it up there. It's just like pharmaceutical companies. There's two sides to every story, isn't there? If they didn't earn a lot of money, then a lot of money wouldn't be able to be put into research. Do you know what I mean? So
but they're only researching it, not to say, oh, we found this plant is, let's just say, the strawberry plant is unbelievable. You've got a headache, you eat a strawberry. You don't need to take that pill, which contains fucking millions of synthetic bits. They wouldn't, would they? They're only doing the research to benefit themselves.
To make money.
So when you buy drugs, medicine drugs, it's the research. When you're saying about the research, is the research money's going back to them to research more, to make more pills, to make more money.
Yeah.
That's all that is. They're not going to turn around and say, oh, yeah, we've extracted this out of a strawberry plant. But, I mean, if you eat the strawberry, it will help with your headache. It's like, it's not. What they're going to do is extract whatever it is out the strawberry and then sell it back to you.
Mad, isn't it?
That's where the research comes from.
It's good in a way.
I'm not saying it's all bad with them, because some
yeah.
of the pills that they do are unbelievable.
Yeah.
They are.
It's like...
and the research that goes into finding new stuff to treat new illnesses is unbelievable. But if you get to the nitty-gritty of it, it's just the money. It's just money.
Yeah.
And can't say I don't blame them, because who's the fools for buying it?
Well, I don't think we are fools. I think we need to get back to understanding medicinal plants. But I also think, imagine how much you'd suffer without your hay fever tablets. Like when you haven't had them, you writ off, you're a mess.
Yeah.
You look like you've just watched the world.
And I have to take them.
Like the saddest
No,
film.
but then I am the fool, aren't I?
What else would you take though? You're not the fool. You're stopping yourself from getting
I should
really bad hay fever.
stockpile local honey from your area as a preventative for the start of it. And I don't leave it till last minute, and I've rang them up today again. They're telling me another 2 weeks,
Yeah.
So it's my own fault, because I should try and stay ahead of the game. And life's quick. Do you know what I mean? And you have that many things to do. Kids in school, that going on, this going on, that going on. It's like work, and
sometimes
people don't get time to themselves no more. When I say people don't get time to look after themselves no more, or time to themselves no more, they don't. Life moves at a major pace, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's why, in a way...
Yesterday, I was reliving my youth. I was lying in bed, and I was watching Drew Pritchard. Have you ever seen him, Salvage Hunters?
Yeah.
And I'm into me BMXs. When I say I'm into them, I like them because it reminds me of me if I don't pedal BMXs around every day. I've got a couple, and I keep them on display in my man cave, and I like them. They're just there, and they just remind me of my youth. And he's brought a couple of the bikes on his show, what I've got, and I've been sat there thinking, yeah, man, sick, that's sick, fucking boss. And I've gone onto Facebook Marketplace, and I've been scrolling through, just looking at all the old bikes and stuff like that. And I've come across a bike that I had when I was 5, something like that. And it was called the Rally, what's it called? The Rally Wolf.
I had it.
Club, the plastic one.
Yeah, with the red, yellow and black stripes. Man had the button floor kinds of noises, proper kids bike.
It had a proper box.
With stabilisers on it. Yeah,
oh,
a box
no,
on it.
This, you probably got the Cub.
Yeah.
The dumb one that was called the Cub, like a wild Cub, something like that.
But it was yellow, red and black stripes.
They done like 3 editions. One was called the Wild Cub. That was for kids, like 3 to 5. Then they done one, which was the one I had, which was the Wolf. And then they done another one. But the Wolf one has got like a black box, like a computer, and it's on the handlebars.
Yeah.
And you push the button and it does all noises and all that.
Yeah. The Cub had the same thing.
So I bought it.
What do you mean?
It was made in 1983.
You bought it off Facebook Marketplace?
I bought it off Facebook, got to pick it up.
Shut up.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bring them into work.
But it's a beast, and it just, when I seen it, kid, I was like, fucking hell. And I could get the message up. I messaged the woman, and she said, to be honest with you, my husband collects them, but that one's my son's. He bought it for my son. And she told me the story on Messenger. She said, my husband had that when he was a kid, and he bought it, and now my son has a little go of it every now and again, but my son knows the value of it and whatnot and all that, so he keeps it, you know what I mean? And I messaged her back, I was haggling her over the price, and he wouldn't budge anyway, the kid. She's saying, it's not mine, it's the kid's, and he really wants this much for it. And I said, she went, he's 14. I said, yeah, tell him I was peddling that bike around 14 years before he was born, love. You know what I mean? Just laughing with it, but I've got to pick it up tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Bring it in. Let's have a look. We'll put some pictures up on the
How did we
Instagram.
get onto BMX?
I have no idea. I was just looking at my notes thinking, we need to get back onto cold tolerant veggies here by Albert Mondo. Let's turn the page. It's this next article is cold tolerant veggies to grow in your spring garden. We're going to skip over it because not everyone grows vegetables. It's worth reading yourself. So several vegetables such as Swiss chard, beets, bok choy, carrots, spinach, kale, lettuce, leeks, snow peas, radishes, renowned for their ability to grow well in cool weather. Same for some herbs and edible flowers such as chives, tarragon, marjoram, mint, parsley, and pansies are all good. Grow them if you're in a cooler climate. They're the best ones to grow outdoors. If you're going to do them outdoors, an agro-textile is a light white fabric resembling a veil, mainly used to protect crops from insects and bird attacks, but does not prevent sunlight from hitting the plants. And he goes on to talk about how to build mini frames, cold frames. So it's a good article, but it's worth reading yourself if you're into veggies. Evan Foltz, his next article is called The Rights of Nature, and it's Mother Nature versus Man. Now, I'm not going to read from this one. I'm just going to sort of ad-lib because it's 2-3 pages long. What I will say is I'm going to read out some of the quotes from it, actually. Soil is the basis of... Actually, we'll go to Dr. Vedana Shiva's top quote. In the seed and the soil, we find the answers to every one of the crises we face. The crises of violence, of war, the crises of hunger and disease, and the crises of the destruction of democracy.
Well said.
Soil is the basis of nature, the source of alchemy that sustains the wonder of life as we know it, and the answer to what ails us. The lack of reverence we show for the living soil in our approach to agriculture is a perfect parable for understanding the stress we are experiencing towards our way of life, and its regenerative capacity, the ideal lesson for the way forward. And there's a growing recognition that we must fundamentally change the relationship between humans and nature. The devolution of life on Earth is crippling us, compounding upon itself and getting worse, and most can see it collectively. We feel powerless to change it. And if we are to build a just and sustainable world, we need a legal framework that supports this vision. We need a paradigm shift in legal thinking. So, rights of nature is, I'm going to ad-lib this, or I might get a little bit wrong. You need to read the article to get a full understanding of it. But what they're saying is, what Evan's saying is, corporations are owned by either a single man or a board, but they're never, very rarely responsible. The corporation is responsible. Individuals, we are also responsible. So if you went out and killed somebody, you are in court and you're going to go to jail for a long time. But there's nothing there to represent nature. So when we push chemicals and when we destroy the land,
the land can't
take
us
defend
to
itself.
Court and
the
defend
land
itself.
can't take humans to court.
No.
So there's this thing, and there's loads of examples. There's a documentary film called We Are the People, and that's brilliant to watch because it sort of documents this rights of nature and how the people are fighting back. And it seems to be like growing. So what they've managed to do is get into law in certain states and certain countries that nature is a commodity and it should be represented by the legal system. It should be able to defend itself and it should be able to prosecute people as well. So, for example, there's a lake, I think it was in Ohio, which was being contaminated by algal blooms because a couple of miles up the road, a farmer was using mineral fertilizers to fertilize plants, run off into the river system, getting into the lake, causing the algal blooms, sucking up all the oxygen, killing the fish, and actually making the water undrinkable. And it was a source of water for a village further down. So what they're saying is nature was able to take the farmer to court, and the farmer ended up winning because he said it's his right to fertilize his plants. But then a judge reversed the action 4 years later and actually said, well, no, you have got the right to do that, but you also haven't got the right to affect other people's water. You haven't got the right to do this, this, and this. So there's a big movement about nature being able to defend
so if he
itself.
feeds his plant with mineral feed and it runs off his land, he should be accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fair. You feed them with mineral water, mineral feed on your land. But the minute it runs off your land, then
There's a problem.
Yeah.
And same for big corporations. So dumping of sludge, waste materials just on land, they want to make that illegal against nature, against land. It's not illegal against another. Like if you dumped on somebody's land, that person who owns that land takes that corporation to court. But there's areas where they can just dump it, and there's nobody there to
like
prosecute
unadopted
them.
land. You
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. So what groups of people are doing, and this thing called the rights of nature, it's been utilised to protect people and ecosystems from corporate pollution. I'll give you like an example. In 2020, Orange County in Florida became the largest municipality of the United States to adopt the rights of nature law. 89% of the citizens voted in approval, and the amendment gives the citizens the right to sue corporate polluters, and they can do so without proving that they've been personally harmed, as state law requires.
But I bet you every person who was in that state who was polluting, knowing that they're polluting, has moved out of that state to a different state.
Mm. So it's good because...
Isn't there a film on that with what was the one? And there was a film, dead long. What's her name's in it? Oh, what's that woman called? She was in Notting Hill.
Julia Roberts.
Isn't that something about the water? It decontaminated the water and everyone was getting cancer and like fucking deformities and stuff like that. It's a true story.
Wasn't Erin Brockovich, was it?
Yeah. Isn't that film about something like that?
Yeah.
And it was a massive
court case. I haven't seen that film.
And she was just a normal, I'm sure, I might be wrong, but I'm sure it's a true story. And she like just worked out of her house and fought against them for what like they'd done.
Mm. It's horrible, isn't it? Like we wouldn't be in the position we are today.
It's because the world's a money world.
It is a money world.
It's a money world. That's all it is. It's a pure money world.
What's the word for capitalistic?
Yeah.
Run by capitalism, isn't it? But it's
these people who make money today don't think about the next generation of people because that's selfish. They're not here.
Mm.
So why worry?
Yeah.
If I know this is my last day today, then I'm not worrying about the people tomorrow. I'm worrying about me today.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's the attitude you've got. That's
the
like the way it is.
Well, if I can live a good life and have a nice watch, nice car, 3 houses, holidays 7 times a year.
I don't have to go to work.
Don't have to go to work.
Have anything I want, then fuck everyone else. I'm only here once.
Yeah, it's a fucking bad attitude, isn't it?
It's the bad attitude, and that's big corporations have got that. And they've also got the money and the manpower and the right people to back it up if someone challenges it. That's the problem you've got when people say, like, if you get done over by a big company and people go, yeah, I'm just going to try and take them to court. It's like, are you fucking mad?
Mm.
You're talking about a £50 million company. You haven't got a pot to piss in against them. Do you know what I mean? It's like, got no chance. That's that. So that's what you're up against. These big companies, corporations, water boards and stuff.
The only way you
them
can fight
sorts
them
of people.
With your wallet. So if you...
But my wallet's not big enough to fight them.
It is, though. Well, it's like Michael Jackson said, if you want to make a change, start with the man in the mirror. So if you...
But it doesn't work. Do you know why it doesn't work?
Because everyone else puts it onto other people.
Was you ever in a fight in the schoolyard?
Yeah.
And there was 5 years. And you said, yeah, we'll have it with them. Come on, we'll have it with them.
No one's ever the first person to run forward.
No. And you know, when you did run forward, even if you weren't the first person out of the 5 people, someone else took that first step and you were right behind them, fully backing them up, you'd always get 1 or 2 out of 5 who'd shit the pants and run away.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's
what you can
where
do.
we're at society is, I hear all these people and it's, let's go on to like this vaccine and COVID, people saying it's not real now. I'm not here to say whether it is real or not, do you know what I mean? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. There's things that say it's real, things that say it's not real. It is what it is. It's everyone's opinion. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to say what my opinion is on it all. Because I don't know myself. It is what it is. But I've gone off on one now. Where am I going, Steve? What was he saying? It's gone off.
Corporate greed and COVID vaccines and all that sort of stuff. He's lost his thought.
Fucking Coatsy cut that out, lad. Fucking now.
Oh, he's lost his thought. You
Yeah,
can
you
come
have.
back to that in a bit.
What
But
was he saying?
the way you'll remember it if you stop talking about it. If you stop trying to remember it, you'll remember it. What I mean is though, like, let's just use, if you use a shampoo and if you're really bothered about corporate greed and what they do, then the shampoo that you use is owned, do you know, like the 7 pharmaceutical companies that basically own every brand. Yeah, you can look into it. Stop supporting those brands. Spend your money with other brands. If you find out that Coca-Cola or Pepsi end up putting contamination
Did you see
or
what happened
waste
to Coca-Cola?
food, I did, yeah.
Heavy, that, innit?
Madness.
But
But
we
if
had this conversation in the shop before, and it's half right. So Coca-Cola are sponsoring the, what's it called? I don't follow
Euro
football.
20,
The Euro 20.
21.
The football that's all over the telly now with all the countries. And Coca-Cola in Europe, and Coca-Cola have sponsored it. So when Ronaldo, and I think it's his manager or his trainer, have gone for the press conference, they've got 2 bottles, the glass bottles, the fancy bottles of Coke, in front of each one of them. Ronaldo sat down and straight away he's looked at the bottles of Coke and pulled this mad face and just got them and put them under the desk and just looked at the cameras, pulled his bottle of water out and went, "Aqua," and put it on the table. And in the same breath, I half thought to myself, who the fuck on earth from Coca-Cola, the people who say, yeah, we want our bottles of Coke on the table, what athlete do you know? Yeah, I'm not saying athletes don't drink Coca-Cola, they do. I drink Coca-Cola. But
you're not an athlete.
no, but I think everyone's had a glass of Coke in a day.
Yeah.
But to put them there, it's not like I'd expect to see a Lucas bottle or a water bottle or an energy drink there, because that's what you see in sports. Red Bull sponsor all the sports, don't they?
Yeah, Lucas
But
Aid.
you don't see football players running off the pitch and getting a 2-litre bottle of Coke and swigging it. Who the fuck from their promo team or their sponsor, the people who do this, I could understand them at the press conference having like Coca-Cola stickers like everyone else did in the background. What are they called? Like the airplanes and all that. I don't know what they're called, but
Emirates
and all that are all stickered up in the background. And they've put bottles of Coke like Ronaldo was going to pick a bottle of Coke up, mate. It's like, are you fucking mad?
Do you know what is mad?
You soft Coke. 4.5 billion in 4 days. That's how much they dropped in shares.
Mad, isn't it?
Fucking
That's some power, that, by Cristiano, that.
Yeah, good on him though as well, mate, because that's just pure promotion to kids to drink bottles of Coke. I'm not saying your kids shouldn't drink Coke, they should. Live a little. But to put them there in front of a sports performer who every kid looks up to and wants to be him and have his money, his women,
And the way he
his
looks.
cars, his house. What about the way he looks like? It's not my kind, but
Oh, you saw
that's up to you.
He's
know
a
what I mean?
good-looking man, is that?
He's a good-looking
Ronaldo?
fella, but everything he's got is what everyone wants.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And to put bottles of Coke in front of him is like he's taking a fucking piss.
Imagine the
Do you know what I
backlash he'd
mean?
have got off people if he'd have sat there and swagged
Well, like I
Coke.
said-
Imagine all the parents.
Like I said to Jalal that round the corner when we were in the shop, I said, lad, Coca-Cola own water, they own smart
I was
water.
about to say the exact
So-
same thing, lad.
Why not
Yeah.
put bottles of smart water there? Who was the fuck up who said, no, we're going to put bottles of Coke there? Lad, it's like, what are you doing? You should have put a bottle of water there because you'd have drank that.
And you own it
And,
anyway.
and you own it anyway, all right. It's not Coca-Cola who's paying for the sponsorship, but it's the same company. So why not do that? Didn't you see the other one as well? He's a Muslim lad, doesn't drink. They put a bottle of Heineken in front of him, 2 bottles of Coke and a bottle of Heineken. Coca-Cola, or that might be a different sponsor who's sponsoring it. And he just looked at the bottle of Heineken on the desk and just went, picked it up, put it under the table and put a bottle of water there. And I just thought, it's fucking right, lad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking piss take.
Yeah.
Oh, bad. What was we talking about? I've gone off again.
I
We
know.
should just have a podcast where we go off.
I know. We do. It's like what this is
I love
becoming,
putting
isn't
the
it?
world to rights, me a bit.
But you know what's good is the engineer, when this goes out on YouTube, if you do watch on YouTube, he's able to put timelines. So we can put like between 1 minute and 10 minutes we talked about this subject, and you'll be able to put it into little sections. So if you don't like the chat and shit, then you can just skip it. If you listen to us on podcast, then yeah, it's just tough luck. You're gonna have to listen to us chat shit. But yeah, that we got onto that because of the right to nature and big corporate greed, and that was that. So make a difference. Spend your money with companies that care about the environment, and that's your way of making a difference. You don't have to go out and protest. It's good if you do, if you've got the time and you can do. But you can just do some small things like spend your money on companies that care about the environment, and that's how you can make a big difference. Next article is called Chitin, The Secrets of Organic Growing by Cody J. Garrett. So this article, it's only a page, nice quick one. It's nothing new. So what do crustaceans, insects, oyster shells, fish scales and fungi all have in common?
Pass.
You could probably guess from the title of the article.
Shitting.
Chitin.
Chitin.
Yeah, I've been calling it shitting all day, and I thought, you know what? It's one of those words that you probably mispronounce. Let's look it up. I Googled it, and it said chitin. So, yeah, I'm pretending to be intelligent by properly pronouncing chitin.
I'm thick as fuck.
So was I until 5 minutes ago.
I'm thick as fuck. I'll be dead honest.
These organisms all contain an interesting compound known as chitin. But what is it? How does it benefit organic growers? So the earliest records of chitin date back 25 million years in trilobites. Today you can find it in the exoskeletons of insects, shells of crustaceans, oysters, mussels, mollusks, and even the cell walls of fungi. You may even have taken a derivative of the substance in glucosamine, which is sold as a remedy for arthritic conditions. Chitin is a polysaccharide, which means it's a long-chain oligosaccharide. It's a long-chain sugar. Similar in structure and function to cellulose and keratin. On its own, chitin is a tough and pliable compound. Combined with either calcium carbonate, such as shells of oysters and crustaceans, or interlaced with protein compound like exoskeletons, forms durable materials currently being investigated as a possible bioplastic. Better for the future. What does it do in the garden now? So I'm going to, again, go off my own stuff. I've read the article. Chitin, it's found in insects. Plants don't want insects because they usually eat them. And what plants have formed a defense mechanism is when they, whatever signaling system that they use.
It's going to be like a charge.
Exactly. Well, charge is chitin. EcoThrive charge is got chitin in it. Yeah.
So the plant thinks when it's
under
this
attack.
chitin, it thinks it's under attack and puts its defences out.
Yeah, and it's ready for an attack. Yeah. So if it does get attacked, it's more prepared in its defences. And that's basically the long and short of it is it's really good at preventing pest and disease. It induces a systemic defence response and promotes an increase in chemicals naturally produced by the plant when pests and pathogens are present. But one of the most exciting benefits of chitin is it shows incredible promise increase in active compounds such as flavonoids, terpenes, and overall resin production in medicinal plants. Both studies and real-world anecdotal reports discuss improved yields in dry weight harvest produced and the actual active constituents produced, so higher quality at the same time. Other research correlates chitin and chitosan with increased drought resistance, and the plants yield the same as untreated ones not exposed. Sorry, let me restart that. Other research correlates chitin and chitosan use with increased drought resistance, with the plants yielding the same as untreated ones not exposed to drought conditions. That doesn't make sense to me.
Read that back again.
Other research says chitin and chitosan use with increased drought resistance, with the plants yielding the same as untreated ones not exposed to drought conditions. Okay, so I get it. Fucking brain fart there. So what they've done is they've got two plants. One's had chitin and has gone through drought conditions. The other hasn't had chitin, but it's been watered normally. And what they're saying is the ones in drought conditions with chitin has yielded the same as the normal healthy plant. Yeah. So it's good. Do you know what I mean? It's a really good insurance policy for your plants. So, yeah, chitin and chitosan, they offer a way to boost plant immunity, quality, and drought resistance naturally. Adding ingredients to our garden might be the secret weapon organic growers have been waiting for. What do you think about that, Barry?
What did you just say?
Chitin.
Yeah, more about it.
Well, we've just been talking about it, haven't we? And it's the secret to organic growing.
You was.
No, we Barry, we're 40 minutes into the podcast, mate. What are you on about?
No, I'm not 40 minutes in. I'm just sat down.
We're 40 minutes into the podcast. Play ball with me. So the next article after that is Rich Hamilton's reservoir tank troubles.
Stephen's got his phone on again.
Yeah.
Let's start again. Coatsy.
No.
Edit all this out because I haven't got a clue what's going on. I've just sat down and Stephen's saying that's what we've been talking about for 40 minutes and I haven't got a clue what he's going on about.
Do you want me to fill you in on what's been going on?
What?
So you remember like last week
Yeah.
when we did the podcast Medicinal Plants?
Yeah.
And then we did the whole
forgot
podcast.
that, lad.
And we did the podcast and then we finished. And then I went and pressed stop. Well, it turns out, because the engineer wasn't here, that the memory card was full. And
What?
it only recorded up to just as I finished saying chitting. So
So last week, the last podcast is being wiped out.
not all of it
Oh,
up
what?
until a part of chitting.
So what minute was that?
Up to about 40 minutes. So we're going to finish it off. We're finishing off
Oh,
the
for
podcast.
fuck's sake, I can't remember what happened last week.
You don't need to. You just need to carry on with the podcast as if nothing's happened. Can you do that?
Damn these engineers, man.
Can you do that for me,
See,
Mike?
this is what the problem is with the world memory cards and all that, like.
Everything goes
Fucking
smoothly when the engineer's
shit.
here. When the engineer's not here, it doesn't go smoothly. What can I say?
Fucking memory cards and gadgets and gadgets.
This is really going to fuck Barry up because he loves just getting into the podcast, settling down, few puffs on his pipe, talking about all the partners of the podcast, getting into it, getting comfy.
None of that's happening.
None of that's happening. We've done it all.
Bollocks, like. I don't know where I'm up to. I don't know what I'm doing.
So, reservoir tank troubles. Rich Hamilton, understanding reservoir fluctuations. That's the next article in the magazine is. So, if you grow hydroponically and you suspend your roots in water, or you do flood and drain, or if you use a reservoir for a system such as AutoPot, then you are going to have reservoir tank troubles. Ever had your pH go up?
Yeah.
Ever had your pH go down?
Yeah.
There's the ding dong.
I told you that.
Here comes the engineer. So, reservoir tank troubles. This is so weird, isn't it? Let's say hello as the engineer walks in. He's walking up very slowly, isn't he? He should have well been at the top of these stairs by now. Look how slowly he's walking in. I'm just telling everyone, engineer, how Barry's got really confused because I just started the podcast where the last one left off, when the memory card got full, and he's just got really confused. So that's where we're up to, engineer. We're press record and we're filling in the gaps from last week's podcast, and it feels really weird and awkward. So you've had your pH go up, you've had your pH go down. Ever had water temperature issues?
A little bit.
Yeah. And
Not really.
why? Why don't you get water tank temperature issues? What do you do to prevent it?
A water cooler.
Water cooler. What do you
cooler.
set your temperature at?
Is
Is this for the system or is this when you're hand feeding? Do you do anything different?
If I'm just hand feeding me plants, if I want to do me greenhouse, then most of the time the tank's full. And I know what you're saying about the temperatures and stuff, but I'll put it in a shady place in the garden, me tank, or I put an umbrella.
I've heard every part of your garden's a shady place.
Not you said. Grow dangerous tomatoes. Nah, I'll put it in a shady place, but sometimes if it is a little bit warm, then I'll just top it up with water out the tap.
Yeah, cold, nice cold
Yeah,
water.
leave the tap running, the hose running for a couple of minutes, and then put it in. It's like anaesthetic.
Yeah, you say, you know what is a good point to make? You say that the water's like anaesthetic, but it's not actually that cold. So you put your hand in the tank, it's freezing, it's like you can't feel it.
You come to mine in the winter, mate, I'll run that hose for 2 minutes, and you put your hand under it for 2 minutes,
But
guarantee
I
you
bet
know.
you if I asked you to guess the temperature of that water, you'd say that's easy, 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, when actually it's probably about 10. Because we, 10 degrees still freezing, but we think when we touch that water out the tap, it comes out, not peak winter, comes out cold then, but cold times, it can come out about 8, 9, 10 degrees Celsius, and it feels like it's 2 degrees, feels like it's about to freeze. But it shocked me. Actually, I felt it, thought, oh, that's freezing. It's going to take ages to warm up. Put the Blue Lab pH pen in, which measured the temperature as well. It was like 9 degrees. I was like, fucking hell. Bit warmer than I thought it was. But yeah, you want your water to be 15, 16, 17, 18 degrees Celsius. The cooler, the more oxygen it'll hold. That's a good thing. The hotter, the less oxygen it holds. That's a bad thing. What Rich says to do is to leave the tank to settle for 24 hours. And that helps all the chlorine evaporate. If you use a water mover, that'll help as well. It'll help evaporate off the chlorine. But chloramines, so the chlorine's attached to, completely forgotten what it's attached to.
What's that? Oh, told me Mike had gone then.
It is attached to, I'm going to tell you now because my brain's just done a bit of a brain fart. Again, second time on this podcast and it's a week later. So chloramine, I want to get this right. Don't want to get it wrong. Chloramine is a group of chemical compounds, and chlorine and ammonia. That's it. Ammonia. And what that means is it doesn't evaporate. So it stays in the water. This is why water companies use it, because it stays in for longer, keeps the water cleaner for longer. So if you want to get rid of the chloramines, you use something like EcoThrive and Neutralize, or you use a proper reverse osmosis
Isn't it like
machine.
like a vitamin C?
It is. It's ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, and that gets rid of your chlorines and chloramines pretty quick as well. So that's if you've got no time, you can just add that into it. He talks a little bit about dissolved CO2, which is known as carbonic acid, and that will affect the water pH. So if you oxygenate your water tank and you basically got CO2 into your room, that CO2 mixes with your water, produces carbonic acid, will drop your pH. So if you've ever seen that, it's probably best to not oxygenate your water because you're having pH issues. If you've got hard water, that's where you've got a lot of calcium and magnesium in there. You'll know it's hard water because your EC of your tap water is high. Then your pH is going to fluctuate very little because the calcium buffers it a lot. If you've got soft water, like we do in Liverpool, then there's less calcium and magnesium, so the pH can move up and down. If you use RO water and you don't buffer it with anything, calcium or magnesium,
So
the pH is going to fluctuate.
When you say
Huge.
we've got soft water in Liverpool, what is it? The north or west is soft water.
So pretty much the northwest is soft water. Big parts of Scotland is soft water. Birmingham mixes between moderately soft to moderately hard. Further south that you go, London is moderately hard to very hard.
Why is that, Stephen?
The rock type in the country. So we all get our water from different reservoirs, and the reservoirs get their water from the different parts of the country. So in Liverpool, we're limestone.
Doesn't that come from Wales?
Yeah, parts of Wales as well. If you go onto Google and you type in UK rock type map, you'll be able to see all the different coloured segments of the different rocks that we've got. So softer rocks, you're going to get quite a bit of calcium, magnesium. They will. There's the acid rain. It picks up. What is it now in the what type of acid is it? I think it's sulfuric acid in the air through pollution, more acidic rain. It erodes the rocks, breaks down into calcium, magnesium, and that gets into your water source. That's hard water. Soft water is hard rock, so your limestone doesn't break down very easily, and so you get less calcium and magnesium. So that's your soft water areas in a nutshell, in a very basic nutshell.
Interesting.
That's what it is. So that's how you get the hard and soft water. Softy water, the more you have to be on the ball with your pH because it will fluctuate massively. If you do have massive pH fluctuations, check your EC. It's probably going to come out low. Add a little bit of calcium, magnesium. CANNA does the CalMag, which is a brilliant calcium and magnesium. Add that in start off at 0.1 to 0.2 mil per litre. Get your EC up to about 0.4, and that'll help prevent the pH from moving about too much. Bit more peace of mind. Rich also talks about keeping the tank cool, 12 to 18 degrees Celsius, but not too cold, not too hot. So ideally, you want your water butt outside the room, don't you?
Yeah.
Water movers rather than So a lot of people just take a water pump. What's wrong with using a water pump?
A water pump or an air stone, I don't use it. That brings your pH up as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But how come you don't use a water pump? What have you found with that?
Because if the barrel half empties and the water pump's in it, squirt it out. I hope that's the common sense reason.
Well, what I found is that the pumps, they're not been designed to run for 24 hours a day, so they actually heat up loads.
Yeah.
When we were in Morton and we were doing lots of testing, I did use a water pump, left it on overnight, just circulating. Came back, the water was like 22 degrees.
Because the little pump had got red hot.
Red hot. So it's
but
not
not only
that,
if you like running AutoPots and the tank drops by half and the water pump's in it, you're squirting the water out, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
See, that's like
Creating
that's like the
turbulence.
answer I'd give, because that's like common sense.
Creating turbulence, messing with the pH levels. Was that little look at God then, was it?
No, I was looking at the sealants thinking, it'd be fucking dripping by the fucking squirting out the tank, hitting the seal and blowing the lecky.
Do you know what else? Do you know what to use instead? Water movers.
Yeah.
These are now changed to the magnetic well easy, because they used to come with the little, like you
Suction pad.
Suction pad, that's it. You got them in your cars for your sat navs.
I actually designed that,
Did you?
Yeah, I just never give it to them. Someone else designed it that they know.
Oh yeah, so you designed it.
As soon as it come out, I went, it's a load of shit, isn't it? Everyone was like, nah, it's got a sucky pad on. And I went, yeah, how many solid tanks have you got? And he went, what do you mean? So how many solid tanks have you got? He went, I run flexies. I went, you get that to stick to the side of a flexi. You tit.
I thought you were messing about. I thought you were actually saying I designed a sucky pad for cars, sat navs.
And then I said, nah, you just need to get like a magnet or something so it magnets to the side.
Do you know what's possible about the magnets as well? They're proper powerful.
Yeah.
Like 2 proper strong magnets. You can have a bit of fun with them. And they'll just go anywhere on the flexi tank. I'll put mine on the bottom, or like a couple of inches from the bottom, aim it up so it'll drag everything that's at the bottom, push it up to the top and create a circle. And it doesn't break the surface tension of the water either. So your pH should remain stable. I know so Rich says about oxygenation as well. Let me find actually a piece so I can sort of quote it, because I remember last week we had a little chat about this, didn't we? It's the oxygenation of your water tank. Where is he? What's your favourite, while I'm looking for this, what's your favourite, what you use to chill your water?
Halia.
Halia what?
Water chiller.
Do you like them?
They're all right. There isn't much else out there really, though, is there? To be honest. I know there's a few other ones, but I don't know.
There's one there that we had in the shop for a water, just read that in the article. There's one that we had in the shop, I can't remember. Hydor, it was green. And actually, it was a water chiller.
It is a Halia one, I've got to think, I'm sure it is.
You've definitely got a Halia, because that's all we sell in the shop. But there's Hydor out there, and HYDOR.
That sounds like a blag of Halia. Haydor, Halia. You know what I mean?
Hodor. And did we use it? Yeah, we did. And I think the one that we had in the shop display, we've given it to someone to trial, and he was happy with it. I think but it heats and cools the water as well. But we've never had any issues with Halia. We use it's called HC100A 150.
I haven't used it for years now. I've still got it though, but I'm right in thinking you still have to put a pump onto it, don't you?
Yeah, that's where everyone.
When are they going to make?
Yeah,
when are they going? So now down the look, you're going to shock me now when I should really know.
No, they haven't made it.
Shut up!
No,
absolute punks. Why don't they make a water chiller with a pump in it? So you just hook it up to your butt. One hose comes out the bottom of your butt, one goes back in the top, and it's got its own pumping. Why don't they make it? And they should make it where it's called the H100, H200, H400, H700, H1000, and then they're all designed, because if you look at most flexi tanks, they're 100 litre, 200 litre, and so on and so on and so on. And they should make it and call it the H50, 150, and then it'll cool the water between 150 litres, 150 litres, and it's got a built-in pump in it.
Yeah, what I reckon they'd come back with
is if the pump fails, the whole thing's in the bin.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make.
What they should do then is make. Have you ever seen the way you get a car pump? Yeah, for your car,
yeah,
and it plugs in the regulator.
Yeah.
and on the back of it, it has the thing where you take it off and all the wires go in there.
Yeah.
So on the back of the water pump, it already had the pump. So if it does break, if the pump breaks, then they can send out a replacement and you can take it off and put the new pump in, rather than trying to match a pump up sort of thing. So it's built in, and so it all as well. The other thing is your water cooler plugs in, yeah? And now you're plugging your pump in as well. So it'd be better if I had sort of kettle connection in the back where you've only got one plug now and it runs your pump and your water cooler.
Yeah, simpler, isn't it?
It's simpler. It makes more sense, and it's less complicated for people. Do you know what I mean? And some people are a bit embarrassed to go into a shop and say, I need that water cooler, and I don't know what pump do we need, I don't know what I should know this, because a lot of people are like restricted in the shop, aren't they?
It caught me out the very first time I used one.
Yeah, no, but some people are a bit more like, if they go into a shop, they feel like they should know everything.
Yeah,
and they just go, and that. Just,
I was going to say they're the worst, but they're not the worst. But
I had a lad in the shop the other day, and he educated them. I nearly laughed. I did laugh, I'll be dead honest, I laughed, because I thought he's brand new. This
to him, or when he left?
No, it was a lad and his mum come in the shop, and they were doing, I don't know what it was. It was some kind of, what was it? The plant that they were growing. What was it?
Was it the tobacco?
No, we ain't tobacco.
Is it a house plant or a
no,
edible?
It's an edible, but it stinks. It's got like a cat pissy smell on it.
Tomatoes.
No, we ain't tomatoes. Something else.
Don't know then.
So anyway, he said about a carbon filter. So I said to him, I wouldn't be arsed. And genuinely, in a greenhouse outside, growing these plants, but they stink. Yeah. Apparently, if you rub against them, like, it hums. And he said, like, I want a filter for in there, because when you go in there, if you're in there for half an hour, you can sort of feel sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I said to him, have you got a fan in there? He went, no. He said, I've got the filter though. I said, yeah, what filter is it? He went to bought 2 spray cans of it the other day. And I thought, do you know about I bought 2 spray cans? I went, you've bought, so you need 2 fans then, don't you know what size filter you've got? I just thought he'd said it wrong, and he went, what do you mean, what size? I said, you've bought carbon filters, haven't you? He went, yeah, 2 spray cans of it. I thought, what are you on about? I said, what do you mean, mate, you've bought 2 spray cans? Carbon fibre paint, like this paint, and when you spray it leaves like a carbon fibre effect, doesn't it? That's what it absorbs into, isn't it? Oh, my head fell off. I just thought, I've never even heard of carbon fibre paint. I said, where have you got that from? He said, eBay. I said, carbon filters, mate. I said, I had to explain it in like pure plain. I said, it's like a bit of a metal drum kind of thing filled with carbon. Do you know what I mean? Like pelleted carbon or flaked carbon. And he was like, it's just carbon fibre though, innit? And I went, no, mate, no. What have you bought? And he went, 2 aerosols. And I went, where was you going to paint that? And he went, I was just going to spray cardboard and stand it up in there. You know what I mean? Pieces of cardboard. And I thought, I didn't have the art to like just burst out laughing and piss myself in the middle of the shop. So I said, lad, look, mate, I said, we run a podcast. I said, start from episode 1. I said, there's 226 to get through, so come back and see me in about 2025. You know what I mean? I just didn't know what to say to him. I said, no, but in the end of the show, I showed him, like, I did put him straight on everything and said, no, mate, and I got a little 4-inch fan and filter out and all that and showed him how it worked, and his head just fell off. He was like, I said, have you read that anyway? He went, nah. He said, I've just heard people just use carbon fibre to get rid of smells. And I went, yeah, nah, mate, it's like...
Oh, it's great, that.
It's mad, that. That's one for me book.
Yeah, Memoirs of a Grow Shop.
Yeah, Memoirs of a Grow Shop. I've written it down.
Did you?
It's one for me book.
Good. I just got lost in that story. That's the first time you've told.
You know what, lad? I told the lads in the shop about it, and they were just astonished. But it's not his fault.
No, it's not. But
him and his missus, him and his mum, sorry, it was, are having a little go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's his fault that he's just assumed.
Yeah.
And not just read anything at all.
So I expect a nice kickback out of whoever makes the first water cooler with a built-in pump at the back, which is easy.
Well, I've been trying to say
a little clip-off panel. There's the pump sat there.
When you get
going.
What? when you get going, you're impossible to stop. What I was going to say is, the benefit of not coming with a water pump is that you can choose your water pump. And if you're in a really warm environment, then if your water temperature is 24 degrees, you want to be pumping it through the water chiller quicker so that you
slower.
Well, I know what you mean by slower, but
if you pump the water through a chiller slower, it's in there for longer, so it'll come out cooler.
I know.
If you pump it through quicker,
it doesn't work out like that, because
why doesn't it?
You get a pump that does X amount of water, and it'll go through at the right rate. Let's say 100 litres an hour. I don't know off the top of my head. 100 litres an hour into a 100 litre water butt, and that's the right rate. But I know what you're saying. If it goes through even slower, it'll cool down more when it's in there. But I think the way these Halias work...
No, I don't think it would, though, because if the cooler's set at 18, it doesn't matter how long it's in there, it's at 18.
Well, what it does is if it's at 24, it'll drop it to 23.6, 23.2. So
it's not that.
That's why it takes ages. So the faster you get through there...
If you put a 100 litre water tank onto any cooler, it'd probably cycle it 3 or 4 times, maybe even more, before it got to that degree anyway. Because as it's pulling it through, if the water was 25 and you had it set at 18, the first full 100 litres that have gone through and back in...
takes an hour. On a 100 litres an hour. 100 litres an hour pump.
100 litres an hour pump, so it'd probably have to go through a couple of times, I imagine, before it got down to that degree.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, they should just make one that don't complicate it, and I know I'm right, and everyone who's listening is thinking that kid's on the fucking ball. Why not just make a pump with one plug? Because sockets in your room are scarce. Do you know what I mean? So why not just make a water cooler with a built-in pump in the back where it has a little clip panel that comes off, and there's the pump there, you can see it, with 2 Jubilee clips on, and like some sort of kettle lead, or like a fitting lead what's on a car, some sort of male and female connector fitting, and you unplug it, and that's it. So if your pump goes, you need a replacement pump, mate. It is what it is. And it'd save all the aggro of, if pumps break, they break. It is what it is, but it's just easier for the Charles Austin to send a replacement pump out and me give the fella that and go, yeah, it's easy, man. When you bought it, the instructions are in there on how to change that pump.
What I'll do is I'll ring Charles Austin, let's find out, and we'll make commission on it.
Because it would make life easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because now you've got pipes going into pumps, pipes going into coolers, pipes coming out, going into tanks, 2 plugs plugged in. And it's not that. You've got more chance that what happens if the cooler fails? Will the water still just run through it? But then if your pump fails, your cooler's running there with no water going through it. Is that a bad thing?
No, I think it's got a safety cut off. So if your pump turns off, it knows. So the chiller will cut off as well.
Just make one, mate, with that.
I'll put it to them. This time next year, Barry, we'll be millionaires.
But we need this red phone on the desk so we can call them now and put it on them.
Yeah.
Say who in Charles Austin is in the highest.
Who's the kidder?
Who's the kidder there now? Yeah, put him on the phone.
So that was keeping your tank cool, wasn't it? 12 to 18, but not too cold, not too warm. I was looking for oxygenation. I asked Barry to just to talk about water coolers while I was finding the part in the magazine. You went on with yourself for 10 minutes. Well done.
And why couldn't you have a dosage in it that doses oxygen into the water at a rate?
Because that's complicated. You need oxygen tanks and all kinds. Good idea if you want to get set up in a complicated but high-tech way.
Some people are high-tech.
Yeah. You know what? I think oxygen tanks, I don't think your average Joe can get hold of them because they're highly flammable, aren't they? Pure oxygen. Proper flammable.
Just a thought.
We'll take it on board, and this time next year we'll be 2-time millionaires.
Just putting it out there.
Listen, there's a machine out there that we're working with at the moment. It's come from a university, and it's a method of increasing oxygenation in the water. And it doesn't matter too much if your water temperature goes high or if it goes really cold. It can sustain oxygen levels in your water. So we need to have a little bit more of a play with that. I think that could be a good product. In just rounding off Rich's article, he said that bubbling the water is a good idea as this increases dissolved oxygen levels and keeps the mixture fresh and cool, thus deterring the growth of algae and bacteria An airline also encourages dispersing all the nutrient elements in the water, keep them moving and warding off any possible precipitation. Now, what I said about this last week, but it didn't fucking record, is that it confused me, this choice of word. He says bubbling the water is a good idea. So,
but you're bubbling it through an air pump, that's going to get hot.
Yeah, and it's going to oxygenate the water, but it's going to mess with your pH, isn't it? So we don't really recommend to oxygenate the water just in a standalone reservoir. What we would say is, like, your standalone reservoirs are used in AutoPots. You don't oxygenate the res, you oxygenate the pot, don't you? So they come with AutoPot air domes. You link that to a single air pump and you oxygenate the water as it's sitting underneath the pot. But what I think he's on about, and going off the pictures, is that bubbling the water is a good idea in hydroponics, such as DWC. But it's not a good idea. It's essential, isn't it? So in DWC, bubbling the water is essential. If your roots are in contact with water for 24 hours, you've got to have aeration. It's got to be bubbled. But if it's your reservoir tank, then add water circulate, and then I would oxygenate at the pot, such as your AutoPot air dome. I'd do something like that to oxygenate it. But nice. Good article. He also says light-proof tank is essential to prevent the growth of algae, because they need the light. If you do get algal blooms, they will consume the oxygen, and they'll also consume the nutrients as well. Keeping it a cool, dark, dry place. Keep your nutrient tank clean, and just look after, as well as looking after your plants, looking after your water tank is...
How often, like, would you say you'd have to change? So say I had a 100-litre tank with mineral nutrients in it. How often? If I didn't use that all in a week.
In a system like an AutoPot.
Yeah. Even if it was just a tank just there just to feed, and it had mineral nutrients, forget the AutoPot.
Oh yeah, so hand watering.
Hand watering or AutoPots, and it had a water mover in it. If that tank was still there, let's say half full, a week later, would you change it? How often would you change your tank?
If I could spend time and I wanted them to be top notch, I would change the water, yeah, because you're resetting
How
EC.
often? Every week?
Every week, yeah.
What about organics?
I would make up my organic batch ready to feed. I wouldn't let it sit.
You wouldn't put it in a tank?
No.
With a water mover?
I try not to. No, I went like that.
He didn't.
I did.
Based it away.
No, I didn't. That's you filthy animal.
So if you had organics, you wouldn't even use the tank?
I'd try my best to figure out how much my plants were going to need and make up specific mixes.
Let's have an argument.
Go on then.
Dead quick one though. AutoPot have just increased the size of their pipe to carry organics.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say about that?
I'd say that's great for people who can't invest in as much time into making up a premix every single time they need to feed. So, water mover, 18 degrees Celsius. And if you're going to use a range like, well, any fucking organic range, but they're thick, aren't they? So I think I can't remember the specific products, but you'd use most products in your tank and you'd make up a separate feed for the really heavy, gunky food. And you'd mix it all up and you'd let them feed through the AutoPots, and the real heavy, gunky stuff, you top feed with them. That's what I personally do. Most organics have one feed that's like syrup.
Just asking.
Wasn't much of an argument, that was it though, Basil?
No, but...
Do you agree, disagree?
No, I think you can feed. I think you can use. I think putting organics in a tank's all right, but it's
probably it is. Just in an ideal way,
definitely that if you fill the tank up on a Monday, then you should definitely, whatever's left in that tank should be emptied, cleaned, and refilled.
Yeah, and you should start to know what your plants need, so you shouldn't really be left with half a tank at the end of a week. Do you know what I mean? When they're young, don't make up 1,000 litres when they're only going to drink 100. You should know that. So just get to know your plants, get to know how much to drink, and don't waste water, don't waste nutrients. That's a big thing for the planet. Next article is Dr. Callie Seaman. She went to
a cannabis farm, 500 square metre, custom-built, climate-controlled, closed-loop facility cannabis farm in Denmark. Her title is Medicinal Cannabis Production and Cultivation. So she walks you through the medicinal cannabis cultivation facility in Denmark. She was there for Medical Cannabis Awareness Week 2020. And she writes, as of November the 1st, 2018, the UK has legally allowed doctors to prescribe cannabis to patients. However, 2 years later, and only 4 prescriptions have been written on the NHS, leaving no choice but to pay for private prescriptions. The goal for MCAU, which is Medical Cannabis Awareness Week, and the facility tour is to help destigmatize cannabis-based medicines, show how the products are made and why they cost so much. Callie she's got a PhD in basically hydroponic nutrients. That's what she did at university, part of Aqualabs. And she's probably one of the best people to have written this article because if you follow her...
She's a clever kid.
She is. But not only that, there's lots of clever people out there. But if you follow her, she deals with epilepsy and she uses medicine to help her deal with the epilepsy. And you can follow her on Instagram at Dr.Callie-Seaman, Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, and you follow her journey as she helps herself. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to read out this article because it's long. It's really good, but it's just you just don't need. It's not like a discussion article.
Just say the first bit again, no, like what you very first said.
So as of November 1st, 2018.
No, go back to climate control and that.
So she is in a cannabis farm, 500 square metre one, custom built, climate controlled, closed loop facility.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be lovely if it wasn't just cannabis grown in them sort of facilities? Do you know what I mean? Like,
you're talking about your green leafy vegetables, your tomatoes.
Yeah, I know
cucumbers.
there is some places that do it, but not a lot.
It's all still grown.
It just seems to be that. Even traditionally, wouldn't it be nice to? It's what the world is known from TikTok, hasn't it? Really, that we grow our own plants and we grow our own veg. So I know a lot of places do, and I'm not saying they don't, but when you come to a cannabis factory, medical cannabis factory, it's on point.
Yeah.
Everything is on point. Why haven't they got a fucking carrot factory like that?
Because how much do you pay for a bunch of carrots at your Tesco?
Yeah, but going on about decriminalising it, we need to devalue it a little bit then as well, don't we, on the medicinal side of things?
Yeah, that's what
will happen. Do you know what I mean?
That's what will
Hopefully
happen.
That's what will happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's less of a drain on... That's why only 4 prescriptions are
You know what I mean, though,
so
don't you?
Expensive.
If you put a cannabis factory, which is just a plant, next to, I don't know, name another good veg or
strawberries.
Why don't you see strawberries? Well, they grow outside in hot countries and all that anyway, but why can't we set up facilities here to do that?
It's energy intensive, isn't it? So it's just probably the cost of.
I'm not saying
producing.
I might be wrong, but it's mad, isn't it?
There's got to be innovative ways to do it.
It's mad that all how can I say? How can I put it? The people who run these medicinal cannabis factories are probably the best horticulturists in the world.
Yeah,
it's just a shame that we didn't have them in the normal today's agriculture sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We may have them when that soil gets depleted. And
do you know what I mean? And then we'll all panic for them then. And all these people that hate the medicinal side will then depend on that side.
When it becomes cheaper to run that type of facility,
I mean?
I reckon it'll become huge.
Just in one of them moods.
I can tell. So the article's a few pages long. She goes on to talk about extraction. I've highlighted here, isolates are more in line with the way pharmaceuticals are produced today, but suffer from being one-dimensional. They require large biomass to produce, where a full spectrum oil requires less. 5 to 15 grams of biomass are necessary to produce isolates or full spectrum oil, while 15 to 20 grams are necessary to make 1 ml of aromatics. She talks about post-processing such as decarboxylation, And what else has she talked about? Once the oil is produced, it goes to the vacuum oven, and because of the low boiling point of butane, excess is evaporated and removed. European medical guidelines limit the content to 5,000 ppm. Fine, then don't give me a fist pump, Josh, on your way out.
Isn't it, Matt, like...
What?
Forgot what I was going to say. I was ding dong. Imagine if we had, touch wood, it never happens, but imagine if we had a pandemic. See the way we've just all caught coronavirus?
We haven't all caught it.
No, we haven't all caught it, but it's out there for everyone to catch at some point, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's going to be like the flu now, isn't it?
Yeah. Imagine if that got into the... imagine if that got into livestock and they put a ban on everyone eating livestock.
Probably benefit the earth massively.
It would. But it also is... See the way the medicinal cannabis gets scrutinised, and it makes me laugh though that they'd be the people that the whole world would depend on them.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
To grow the plants, yeah.
To grow their plants for them.
The villains become the heroes.
The villains become the heroes. But before you brandish them a villain, you need them. So you should be calling them a hero.
You're in a very philosophical mood today.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Aye. Philosophical, Barry. It's going to be...
Do you know what I mean, though?
I
It's
do.
fucking right
I do.
that people have got a stigma when you say cannabis or CBD and these people are growing this in these legalised countries, that the world would depend on them, wouldn't it?
Mm.
As well as a lot of other farmers and stuff like that, obviously, who do produce it for us now, normally, potatoes, carrots and whatnot, but there wouldn't be farming. Like, would you say farming is like a bit of a dying breed? Did you know anyone who left school and went, yeah, I'm going to be a farmer?
No, but to be fair, I grew up in the city, and so did you. I reckon if
Yeah,
you went
but-
to school in
All right then, yeah. But
Yorkshire,
yeah,
it would
but-
be a bit different.
if more of the city people did do it, do you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like, so what you're saying is then, if you grew up in the middle of, let's say, Yorkshire on a farm,
Mm.
what happens if, so you're a farmer's son, you've got a brother, you and your brother are farmer's sons, and you grow up on the farm. What happens if you don't want to do farming? What happens then?
Your dad's farm gets bought out when he retires
Right.
and gets sold to another farmer to increase his land, or someone's been to, don't know.
But the way we're building on land now is like ridiculous rate, isn't it? Because there's that many people on the earth, so just in one of them moods, lad.
Mm.
But
Philosophical.
you know what I mean, though, don't you? It's like,
Philosophical.
you know what I mean, though, don't you?
I
It's
do.
like, it's good. I love horticulture.
Talking
Just for
about
that
horticulture
reason.
then, tell us how to grow monster plants organically.
In Monster Pot with Monster Organic Nutrients.
This one's by Cody J. Garrett, and he talks about how to grow your organic plants in big pots. The engineers just messaged and said the new Amazon program with Clarkson on his farm is called Clarkson's Farm.
Yeah. I've been watching it.
And I've watched it. Very good.
And
Have you seen it
imagine-
all, engineer?
And just
Belter.
imagine, though, engineer, if we had to rely on that, we'd all be fucked, wouldn't we?
If you haven't watched
He's
it,
chasing fucking sheep around fucking fields with drones. He's driving a Lamborghini tractor. He's putting crops in the middle of summer where there's no water and
did you see
just
his
fucking
Lamborghini tractor,
madness.
though?
No, but that's what I mean. Look how hard it is. That's
Graft.
Listen, a farmer is a hard job, mate. They're up at 4 a.m. and don't go to bed till fucking 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Especially
it's
during
hard
them
graft.
ramen seasons as well.
Yeah, it's hard graft. And there's peanut money in it for them.
Yeah, they say that.
Nah,
They say
it's-
you don't ever see a skin farmer. I know a few.
you only
love
say why you're
because they
saying
don't want people to come in. Like the more farmers, the less dough that they've got. Let
it's
me
not
tell
that
you,
you're limited by
farm-
land anyway. It's not like you can just go out and randomly buy that much fucking land and just start growing.
farmers say that the skin because 20 years ago they were used to earning.
But they're
100
rich in
grand a year.
paper. They're rich in paper, aren't they? Because of the land.
No,
Because they own the
well,
land.
obviously they do, but what it is with farmers is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they used to, I don't know what farm I'm saying, but let's just say they used to take home 100 grand a year. Now they're only taking 60. So for them, they are skint. 60 grand a year is not a bad wage. Do you know what I mean?
Would you do it for 60 grand a year?
I probably could be convinced to, yeah.
Bear in mind, you've got all that stress of, a bit like Clarkson went through, you've lost a full crop to the beetle.
Yeah.
Then your tractor breaks down.
Yeah.
Then something else happens. But then you get a flood. Then, I mean, your 60 grand's not 60 grand, mate. You're like full self-assessment that you've made no money this year and you need help.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean?
show me a job that doesn't come with its stresses. So everything has its own stresses. So running a business, I've just written a LinkedIn post about employees and what it's like to manage employees. So running a business comes with its own set of stresses. Being an employee is stressful because even though you've got contracts, you're never ever guaranteed that you can have your job for the next 20, 30 years. I remember one of my family members was a manager of Tesco's and was one of the top ones. And he scrutinised me for the path I was going down. It was like, it doesn't sound secure, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, he has epilepsy as well, and Tesco's didn't look after him, and he basically pushed him out, and he lost his job. So there's not like the stresses with being an employee, the stresses being the employer, the stresses not having any job at all. Do you know what I mean? It's just what you can deal with. But I wouldn't mind being a farmer. I wouldn't mind being a farmer, me. I reckon I could get down with that life.
No, I could get down with it, but it's like
it is.
You wouldn't want to rely on it.
Mornings.
It's not even that.
Nights.
It's fully dependent on Mother Nature, and you've got no way of controlling that.
Thing with
it's
the
not like turning
weird.
a timer on or going, do you know what, the water's a bit up, put the water cooler on, or bit warm in here, turn that extractor up, or it's not, mate. It's like
mouse killed a lot of farmers off.
Finished, finito, curtains.
Yeah, but they've got contingency, haven't they? So that was
what do you mean they've got contingency?
So they will.
So every farmer's got a contingency fund?
No, not a contingency fund. If his income was based, he'll spread his bets, is the best way of putting it. So see that beetle that destroyed Clarkson's farm, and it was, I don't know what he was growing. It's, let's say, turnips.
No, I think it was wheat or something.
Wheat, yeah. And if he'd be a silly farmer to just rely on wheat for his income. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's gutted, probably lost 10 grand there, but I'm going to make me income off me sheep, me cows, me milk, me potatoes, and me rhubarb. Do you know what I mean? They spread the bets a little bit, farmers, so it's not a major disaster. But watch Clarkson's farm, because he did have the worst. He went into it the worst time. It was the worst floods. Then it was followed by the worst droughts. Then it was followed by winds and beetles. It's really funny to watch, even if you don't like Clarkson. It
just shows what's good about it. It shows how hard it is, mate. And when you're eating your Sunday dinner with all your veg on, you need to appreciate that veg is on that plate, mate.
You do. It's because I've showed you them 2 videos this morning. You're in a very philosophical mood.
No.
I showed Barry 2 videos, and it makes you think about life, doesn't it? We'll talk about them at the very end of the podcast if you want to. But Cody's talked about growing monster plants organically, and I want to talk about it.
Let's go.
So,
what size pot are you going in?
What size pots do you use
How
and
big?
why?
How big are you going?
So Cody said that you can go anywhere from a couple of 100 litres to a couple of 1,000 litres of soil per plant. This is for outdoors.
Fucking hell.
That's outdoors. That's fair enough, because if you grow them in the ground, then fair enough. But he also says a cubic metre is a nice round figure for most genetics and does well in most areas suitable for cultivation. Indoors, anywhere from 100 to 300 litres per plant works well. That's quite a lot of soil.
50 litre fabric pot.
Quite a lot of soil there, Cody.
Fucking
300 litres. 300 litres per plant. I don't even think they make cloth pots that big.
The biggest cloth pot's what? I want it.
Yeah, about 100 litres. Or you can get air pots, but they tend to go outdoors. So, our opinion, I'm not saying that Cody's wrong, it's just our opinion, but there's a big trend now where people that were growing their own plants would do 4 per square metre, and they would grow in 20-litre pots on average. Now, what seems to be a massive trend is reduce your plant numbers and focus on your plants. So if you had 9 square metres, you would have 36 plants doing 4 per square metre. Now you've got 9 plants. So rather than having to look after 36, you've got to look after 9, and you can spend time with them. You can trim them, inspect them for pest and disease, scrog them if that's what you want to do, support them. Do you know what I mean? Not like with a round of applause. You use canes and rope ratchets, but much easier to manage, and you do tend to get better results as well from it. So if you're growing indoors, it's 1 light, 1 plant, 50-litre bag of cocoa soil, 50-litre cloth pot in a 60x60 tray. Job done. Works really well. Now, we're not talking about organics here, we're just talking about growing. Where Cody might have a point, and if he's just talking about just growing in soil, and not feeding them and just having a living soil, then it starts to become much more, you need bigger soil. So I'll use Eco Thrive's Eco Life as an example. They come in 45-litre bags or 50-litre bags, and you have to basically grow in a 50-litre pot and use the whole bag for 1 plant, because there's enough nutrients in that bag to support 1 plant for an entire cycle. If it's a longer flowering cycle, you can get a Eco Life top dress. You'd add that in, water in, it gives it a little boost towards the end. But maybe, I don't know that much about organics. Cody's, his whole life's been around organics, so it's probably, it will be right. Growing outdoors, growing indoors, you will need that extra literage of soil to grow the bigger plants. He does say that, I'll read the first part out. Many growers think to achieve big yields, they need a large number of plants. However, this isn't always the case. You can harvest a tremendous amount of high quality produce by maximising the size of just a few plants, which is what we said, and it's a trend up north. It requires some hard work, but the results pay off in spades. Nice use of the word. If it's success, we must optimise the environment for maximum production within a given amount of time. Now, this, I've said, what size pots do you use and why? Because I thought, while we're on this subject, we would sort of go through how long you veg for, what size pot you use. Some people will use a 50-litre pot and veg for 2 weeks and think that just because they're in a bigger pot with more soil, it's going to help. It doesn't. You're just wasting soil, wasting pots, wasting space. Other people will use a 20-litre pot but veg for 8 weeks, and the roots become root bound and they choke themselves and it doesn't work. The longer your veg period, the bigger the pot that you need to use. It might seem like common sense, but a lot of people it's one of those things that maybe slips their mind or they don't think about. But 1 to 2 week veg, use a 12 to 15-litre pot maximum. You probably get away with 7.5 litres as well. 2 to 4 week veg, 15 to 20-litre pots. 4 to 6 week veg, 20 to 30 litre pots. Anything more than 6 weeks, just go into a 50-litre pot, and it's easy. It's 1 bag of cocoa soil into a 50-litre pot, and you're done. So that's, you increase your veg size, increase your pot size. Do you agree?
Fully.
Fully agree. Very chill today, Barry. What's been going on in the shop?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Nah, that's right.
So I've already said about the Eco Life.
And I think it's therefore, when you get into the realms of big pots, 50 litres and that, they always believe it's like you should be in a cloth pot just so everything's a bit more breathable. And
oh yeah, plastic pots are a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Got to be in the cloth pots.
I don't like the plastics as well.
Bad for the environment as well.
Yeah.
Save the world. Go cloth. How to support big plants outdoors and indoors. So when you're growing big plants, whether organically or whether just growing them normally with minerals, what people forget is these plants use silica, big strong main stem. That'll help a lot.
But it's not going to.
But it's not enough. It's not enough. If you grow big plants,
you've got to be prepared
to support them
before they need the support.
Yeah. How often does someone come in the shop looking for a tomato trellis and you show them and like, there's no way I'm getting my plant over that.
No.
And
So you should have had it on before.
Weeks ago. Yeah.
Even if you're going to build some sort of wooden structure with scrog net or cane or anything like that, I always tell people, put your canes in when you're in veg.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put your canes
Don't damage them roots.
Don't damage the roots. Don't get to week 6 of flower and start stabbing canes everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Just get them in before and you're prepared. You know what I mean? Rather than like everything hitting the floor and then you're picking everything back up and then branches start snapping. That starts just be prepared before it. Do you know what I mean?
The engineer sent me something. You can get giant cloth pots as they were originally for trees. They grow the trees and keep them in the cloth pot until they're sold or ready for planting.
Yeah. And I seen that on Clarkson because he planted a load of trees down that road, didn't he? And they come with cloth pots. And they planted them straight in the ground with the cloth pot on them.
Yeah.
Because it'll just eventually burst.
Yeah, the roots just burst. The cloth pot.
And they put like they put like a, what's it called? Oh, fucking hell, my mind's gone blank here. They put a tube around it, sort of like a big dripper, so we can flick the cap up and actual bladder the roots
right to the very bottom.
Right to the very bottom.
That's a good idea.
You know what you have in offices? Have you seen office plants and you have a little tube sticking out of the soil?
Yeah,
we've got them
right
here,
there.
and they have the little tube sticking out. That's what he had on his trees.
Yeah.
So
you
can
got to
feed
listen,
them.
haven't you, to go.
Yeah.
And then when they make that sound, you know you've bought it properly.
I promise you now, Stephen's never heard that noise. And I will get the engineer to take a picture of the plants in the office. These plants have never heard that noise in their life. That was just a guess that Stephen thinks that they make this noise.
Because
engineer, can you take a picture of them?
These
podcast?
plants are here for the enjoyment
and I want Stephen stood next to them. Dr. Death stood next to them.
I am in here 2 days a week.
That's bad, that.
You're in here just as much as me. Have you ever watered them?
I only come round here for podcast. All you had to do there was go, do you know what? I'll put 2 SANlight M30s over each one of them and just leave them. They'll be lovely.
I've got the 2 M30s. There's a guy that we asked to do the building and you just never get anything out of him. Just never hangs or does anything.
It's a lovely room, this though, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was you saying, sorry?
What was I saying? So supporting your plants, giving them a round of applause. Bamboos, you know what people say? Bamboos come with spider mites.
They do if you buy them out of B&Q, mate.
Well, there are...
You need to buy them from a reputable company.
Get the plastic ones. They can be steam cleaned and everything. The bamboos, which we get, or the shop gets...
Heat treated, aren't they?
Heat treated, steam treated, kills anything. But if those bamboos are then left outside, they're going to get pests going into them.
Or if them bamboos have been used in a room that's filled with spider mites, then just put to the side and then 2 months later, reused, you're just going to reintroduce it probably, aren't you?
Yep, your itsy bitsy spider's going to come alive again. So it's just be careful with bamboos. Get them from somewhere good, where they're stored inside, and make sure your room's clean because it is a good place for them to hide. Or use plastic bamboos.
Sterilise them yourself if you're that asked.
Yeah, just, something like steam cleaner, which you can do your shirts with. Just use one of them up and down them. That'll clean them out. Even easy though, plant supports. Yeah, so you can get 8 to 10 in a pack. They hook up. You'd have to create lines across the top of your room. Hook onto the lines, hook them around your plant, and then don't forget to put the little pin in so that they don't pull the plant up or get pulled down by the plant. Keeps them nice and supported. They're called plant yo-yos, and they're brilliant, but you might need a few packs of them. Tomato trellis, they're really good if you put them in an early stage. Or, last but not least, you can still grow monster plants, but they don't have to be tall. You just scrog them. So build a scrog net, still build a monster plant, and you grow it horizontally rather than vertically. And that acts as a really good support as well. When you do grow massive plants, they need more water, so don't get caught out. The bigger the plant, the more leaves, the more vegetative growth, the more areas there is for the plant to transpire and lose water. So they will drink more. So if you're used to growing smaller plants and you think, yeah, these will just take X amount of litres a day, or every couple of days. Just be on the ball for when these big plants start to drink, because in peak flower, there's no qualms with them drinking 10 litres a day. They will suck that shit up, especially in the summer. And if you then leave them for a day, you're going to come back and they're going to be all starting to wilt. Just stay on the ball, big plants. Do you find that? Yeah. Also something that you've got to keep your eye out for when you're growing bigger plants. Anything else that you can think of? I'm going for something specific here, so I'm asking you to pull a needle out of a haystack here. But big plants, they drink more, don't they?
Yeah.
So your room's going to be full of humidity.
Yeah, more humid.
So you've got to be able to cope with
micro atmospheres and all that going on in there.
Oh,
so you need bigger air movements.
Can't wait to go live again, engineers. Like little dance there off our Basel.
Bigger air movements.
Bigger air movements. You need to maybe invest in a dehumidifier, sorry, because these big plants do go through a lot of water. And did you know that if you give a plant, let's say, 10 litres of water, they are putting about roughly 9 litres of water back out into the atmosphere?
Yeah.
So whatever you give them, it's going right back into your atmosphere. So we'll go through that. If you're interested in specifically growing big plants organically, give that article a read. Compost tea.
Why were you talking about?
Comfrey tea. What's comfrey tea?
What's that?
Well, this is what
there's some shit about. I don't know, I'm not a fucking expert. Tell me.
Well, how do you like your
Tell
tea?
me and I might know what it is.
How do you like comfrey tea?
I only drink green tea, mate.
Do you? But do you like all your tea to be comfrey?
I wouldn't drink anything with coming in. You fucking knob.
Tried to catch you out
there.
No, I hate comfrey tea.
You'd have to get up last Monday to catch me out. Like,
oh, you were a late riser this morning, mate.
No, I was a late riser, though.
You were. I was hoping to catch him out there, engineer. I much prefer comfrey tea. As if Barry's like feeling a bit tired, he goes, "Nah, I hate comfrey tea. I much prefer it with." Oh, fucking hell. You wouldn't think we were men with fucking kids, adults.
Green tea. Why have I got kids?
What?
No, I haven't got kids. Only a kid myself.
Listen, you're great, yeah. You look like you've
engineer.
Got kids and grandkids.
Just tell them you're only as young as you feel.
And how old do you feel?
I honestly still think I'm 22, 23.
You act like that as well.
No.
You need to let you.
What did they call me? Now. I googled that word out of the AutoPot letter. Beginning with an A. Can't even know.
Arsehole.
No, tit.
That begins with a T.
No, it was called something and I googled it and it said fucking sarcastic, funny, fucking this, that, and the other.
I don't
Basically
know.
Just meant dickhead. I thought,
yeah, we did get a lovely review of AutoPot newsletter. It was made up with that. But
so tell me a bit more about this comfrey tea.
Martina Kroll talks about comfrey tea. She says, don't try this before a romantic date. Now
for us or the plants? Is this for us or the plants?
It's for us. No, it's for us to give to the plants. But she says, don't try this before a romantic date because do you ever remember my nettle brew?
Yeah.
Well, apparently comfrey tea is even worse. It smells like rotting flesh. So we're going to make some.
All the best gear stinks though,
It does. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get them back.
The good gear stinky.
Tea. I'm going to spray Morgan shoes with comfrey tea.
How excited he gets over the silliest things, engineer.
Because...
Just gets excited over, like, stupid shit.
Listen, it's a shame you can't see Barry's face because he's made up
Tell me
with it.
more about it.
So, contrast this lovely image with me, not me, Martina, wearing a rubber full gate...
And get into it, go on.
Wearing a rubber full face gas mask, a double layer of thick rubber gloves taped to me wrists, a nylon apron better suited to a slaughterhouse than a polytunnel.
Oof, she means business.
More Walter White than Capability Brown. This, dear reader, is the outfit necessary to tackle this subject.
Mm-hmm.
Fermenting away in a 220-litre barrel sits a mixture of such potency that it dissolves Instagram perfection. A quick sniff provokes a gag reflex. What is this evil brew, you ask? None other than comfrey tea. Excellent fertiliser for flowering plants, but extreme caution is required because it smells of rotten flesh. If you let it touch your skin, the scent lingers for days, no matter how much fancy soap, essential oils, or bleach you use. And the retch-inducing honk of the tea aside, there are many reasons why it's a top favourite garden plant. Easy to grow in abundance, hardly suffers from pest and disease, and it's got the nutritional content perfect for flowering plants. It's got some medicinal benefits, which he goes into for inflamed joints, cuts, wounds, sprains, and bruises, because the pyrrolizidine, have I said that right first time? Pyrrolizidine alkaloids, which comfrey tea has in abundance. And the whole article goes through how to make it and what to do.
What's it made of?
So the plant comfrey, just the leaves. So she says, gardeners want to watch for the first flower sets, usually early in spring as a plant sprouts from the ground. Grab a bucket, a long stick for stirring, and a pair of rubber gloves. Once the comfrey has emerged a bushy plant, chop half of its volume, about 2 inches above the ground. The half you leave on the plant will mature and flower, giving nectar to the bees. While the cut part will produce new leaves. Fill a bucket or water reservoir with comfrey leaves, stems, and flowers. If planning to use a butt with a tap on, use only leaves as the stems are slower to break down and the fibres will block the tap. Sounds a little bit to be worried about, but all's well and good until you have to submerge your whole arm in the anaerobic sludge to unblock it. And that's why you don't do this before a date. You can use old potato sacks as a giant tea bag. Allows the water to penetrate the contents and leaves all the fibrous pulp inside. Leave it to brew for 12 to 14 days. The darker and smellier the brew, the better. At tea time, once the stinky potion is ready, mix with water, feed it to your plants. There's a lot of dilution ratio suggested for the finished brew, but a good rule of thumb is to make it the colour of weak tea. If undiluted brew is deep green, the ideal concoction may be as much as 10 parts water to 1 part comfrey concentrate. So we used to do with our nettle, I think it was 200 ml of pure nettle juice, 800 ml of water, and that was a heavy concoction for foliar spraying your plants. And because it is natural, it probably is hard to overdose, but you want a little to go a long way, don't you? So you can make your comfrey tea that way, all organic. And it really is. It's good to do because, listen, I've never seen a better foliar spray than when I brewed my nettles. Like literally nothing better.
How do you do the brewed nettle ones?
Pretty similar. Just strip the nettles. The more net. I don't know what to call them. The silica spikes, aren't they? That's what stings you. So the more silica spikes on it, the better. So the nettle leaf is full of nitrogen, so great in veg. The spikes, which hurt you, they're made out of basically pure silica. So once it breaks down, you put it in, same as comfrey, put it into basically, I think it's a kilo of nettles, takes a long time to pick, 10 litres of water, leave it to brew for 7 to 10 days. You'll know that nettle tea's ready because it starts to bubble at the top, and that's when you know it's ready. You leave it a bit longer, strain out any stems, stalks, undigested leaf, get that mixture, 200 ml to 800 ml of water, and then just foliar spray your plants. And it is phenomenal. Makes them go really lovely dark green and also gives them a bit of silica as well. So there's loads that you can do. It's not just comfrey and nettle. There's quite a few things that you can do like that. And
I've watched that on I don't know what plant he used on what's that fella? And he had the dogs. He's got the dogs. Still on the telly now.
Monty Don.
Monty Don's the kidder.
We boss to get him on the podcast.
Listen, lad, Monty Don is the boy. He's well too advanced for me. I couldn't talk to him. He'd blow my mind to bits.
He's good. Advanced, but he puts it across in a way that's easily understood, doesn't he? He's like, if you need to chill out, go and watch Monty Don's garden.
He's boss, lad. Boss.
So that's comfrey tea. If you really want to get the step-by-step on how to make it, go and check out the Garden Culture Medicinal Plants edition 38, and you can get it at gardenculturemagazine.com under editions. So go and check out. You can get all the magazines there.
I like the look of that article. Richard Hamilton's Roots.
Go on then, jump to it.
Bigger roots, bigger fruits.
Rich Hamilton's Roots. So he's from Birmingham.
Yeah.
That's like Rich Hamilton's roots.
I don't believe that's a true saying. Bigger roots, bigger fruits.
It was to a degree, wasn't it? And then everyone went.
It is to a degree, but it's not to a like.
So tell them about our experience.
So
why we don't believe bigger
so
roots is bigger fruits.
We grew Carolina Reaper chilies. We done them in what's known as the Brummy Bubbler.
Yeah.
We done them in that. We used to use a 90-litre tank, but by the time you submerge the actual, what did we call it? The pot.
Drilled net pot.
The drilled net pot into
all
the tank
homemade,
suspended. It was all homemade, full of homemade systems. Some people who are listening will know what we're talking about. The Brummy Bubbler, you can actually YouTube them and they're on there. But some people used to call them the Birmingham Bastard.
Yeah.
That's what they were also known as, but we know them as the Brummy Bubbler.
They're just our members
So
of staff
I think by the time you put your net pot into it, it was suspended with Corex over the top and stuff. I think it held about 45 litres of water, wasn't it?
Yep.
Now, on average, let's say on average we got, off a Carolina Reaper, let's say on average we got, let's just put it as a number of chilies.
Yep.
We got 50 chilies. And everyone was happy. It was a fantastic plant, lovely. Yeah, 50 chilies on it.
One of the first ones to be grown in the UK, by the way.
Yeah, and we carried that method on for a while. 50 chilies, 45 chilies, 55 chilies, 50 chilies, and it was great. And then someone said to us, how come you just don't like put it in a bigger pot and you'll get more? And then we thought, you know what, it might like ease it a little bit as well, because it does look a bit root bound, but it's nice, it's good, but
We'd change the water less often.
It'll change the water a little bit less often, because this plant now is drinking this in 2 days,
yeah,
and we're having to do it became a bit of hard work. But so we went, you know what, be a good shout that let's do it. So we went to 150, from a 90 litre to 150 litre, and it was sort of a bit of a different shape. So by the time we put the net pot in, it held now 90 litres of water rather than 45. And it didn't change anything, did it, Steve? Even a few times we done it, we got less chilies than what we did after 90. But the root mass had doubled, tripled in size,
yeah,
from going what looked like a pillowcase in the bottom of the 45.
Like an inch mat of roots, wasn't it?
No, well more than
no,
an
on
inch,
the face, on the small bubbler, you got like an inch mat of roots.
Yeah. What looked like a bit of a pillow, damp pillow at the bottom, to going into 150 litre tank looked like a double quilt. But I always just said the roots have gone that big. The plant's energy now is working to try and it is working to produce root, but also sustain and look after its own root. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like when you look at it, I described this to someone else. It's like when you look at a, oh fucking hell, my mind's blank today. It's like when you look at an iceberg. You can see the tip of it and it looks massive, doesn't it? But that iceberg that you can see floating on the top of the water underneath is how many times bigger? 5?
Yeah.
It's something like that. It's bigger.
It's like 10%
is what you can see. Yeah,
90% all underground.
All underground. Well, that's what it was like. And I
Underwater.
just didn't see any benefits. I don't believe in bigger roots, bigger fruits. If you look at medicinal cannabis again, I was watching a video not long ago, and it was in California, Colorado, Dido, somewhere out there, and they use, I think they look like a rock wool cube that's about 5 inch by 5 inch by 5 inch, like full square, and these plants were monster plants, monsters, tons of fruit on them, and hardly any root. And I just thought, yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. I don't. Bigger roots, bigger fruits.
Better roots, better fruits.
Yeah, better roots, better fruits.
Yeah. That's what we should change it to, isn't it? So
I just don't believe. Do you believe it?
No.
And we have different opinions.
Don't
we?
Yeah.
We're not just like
it's good to a point, like bigger roots, bigger fruits, because as
but
you
then
grow
I
a bigger
believe,
plant and it's got bigger roots,
yeah,
more stability. But then it gets to a point where it's like, no, the plant is now having to use its energy from the sun or your light to keep your roots alive. And there's only so much nutrients and water it can take up.
Yeah.
Like it's like having 1 million straws to drink a litre glass of water.
I just
It's
I
pointless.
don't believe in it. Bigger roots, bigger fruits. I don't. Not after
It's
when
just,
you look
it's
at
a standard industry
people
thing, isn't
growing
it?
5-foot monster plants. In fact, I don't mean 5 foot as in that's huge. I mean, but 5 foot full of fruit, like monster, lovely, gorgeous plants in a 5x5 inch rock wool cube. And after seeing what we do in the Brummy Bubbler, where we're pulling out a fucking double duvet fucking quilt with the same amount of chilies as we did in a 45, you know what I mean? I don't believe it. I do not.
There's a disclaimer there as well with the when we were talking about getting 50 chilies off a plant. This wasn't your typical chili plant. So before you start going away and thinking the chatting shit, I only get 12 off mine. These plants that were in the shop at the time, they were Brummy Bubbler, so it was like the best system you can put them in for fast growing plants. And this one chili plant took up the majority of a 2.4 by 1.2 tent,
Right.
and was huge. And we used to just continually harvest, didn't we? Like with the
That was it. Haven't we
red.
got pictures of that?
We have somewhere, and then
There'll definitely
eventually,
be pictures of that.
eventually, because it come that so much work in the big pot, like that Barry's just talked about, we ended up and started to produce less or smaller fruits. That's what it was. It produced the same amount of fruit, but they were tiny.
Mm.
And like they didn't seem to have the same kick as well. Like we used to give these chilies to customers and say, free boost if you have one of them.
Yeah, there used to be. This is no word of a lie, engineer. Look, this chili plant, yeah. We used to take the chilies off it, and we used to say to customers, only certain customers, used to say to them, eat it now. There's 20 quid on the used to put 20 quid on. Or they come in for a 1 litre A and B, say, do you want it for nothing? And they go, what do you mean? Say, do you want it for nothing? Say, yeah, take a chili out of that bowl and eat it then. And look, they'd be outside the shop being sick. They were fire, mate.
4 of them.
Honest to God.
2 of them called in sick to work.
Yeah.
4 of them, including those 2 that called in sick, got somebody to come and pick them up because they couldn't drive home.
Yeah.
Horrific.
Oh,
We did tell them beforehand,
we had to get rid of it because we become a joke, because people were now cutting the chilies in half and wiping them on the first bits of bog roll in the toilet, on the toilet seat, on the handle of the seat, on the handle of your car outside, on your keypad, the enter button on your keypad on your computer, and you'd touch it and you'd rub your eye and you were in fucking bulk.
That was none of us, by the way.
So
That was
what I
just
mean?
the customers.
There was all kinds
don't get
of
up
these
to that type of
chilies
mischief.
just fucking terrorised the fucking life out of the shop for weeks. There's fucking loads going on.
Didn't there was a debt collector coming to a neighbour a few doors down? I think he
Yeah,
got
the
his,
debt collector come. Not for us, but for about 2 units down. I don't know what kind of business he's got. Something to do with like alarms or something. And they come. And this guy's a boss guy. And we knew he'd gone through like personal matters with his missus and his kids and stuff like that. So he'd shove for a little bit, and debt collectors come and like, yeah, we're changing the locks. And one of the lads in the shop was like, you horrible bastards, and that, you know what I mean? And these 2 bailiffs who turned up were horrible bastards. Do you know what I mean? Like horrible, just arrogant cunts. You know what I mean? And they got fucking, someone went out, rubbed chili, fucking, it was just every handle on the car. I think even the car might have been open, and they put it all over the indicator stalks, gear sticks, everything that you touch in your car was covered in all oil off the chilies. You know what I mean? Them 2 must have went home that day fucking red-eyed. Do you remember that?
I do.
Serves them right, horrible bastards.
It does. Let's finish up with a nice Ann Gibson, Growing a Garden for Health and Wellbeing. So, again, I'm not going to read it out to you, but there's some good points. So, with everyday stresses, a garden not only helps renew our physical bodies, but also gifts us a way to nurture our mental, emotional, and spiritual health too. She talks about the health benefits of garden, with over 50 studies confirmed interacting with nature can offer positive effects on health and well-being. And those involved in garden find life more satisfying and feel like more positive things happening in their lives than those who don't grow. Physical health, so just getting out, digging up the ground, planting trees and plants, oxygen, weed and raking, burns calories, good for your health and weight management. If you grow, then you're going to be eating the fruits and the vegetables and the herbs, so you get a better immune system, and you get all the vitamins, phytonutrients, phytochemicals, so it's good for your physical health. Emotional and mental well-being. American naturalist John Burroughs, 1837 to 1921, had the right idea when he said, I go to nature to be soothed and healed and to have my senses put in tune once more. And you know what? That doesn't half resonate with me, because even though it's not a garden, because I haven't got a huge garden to be able to grow plants in, I always say I go out every Sunday before lockdown to the National Trusts, don't I? And no matter how much of a bad week or a good week that you've had, but obviously the more the bad week that you've had, you need your break, and you go to the National Trusts across the country, and it's like a reset. It's pretty quiet. You go with your family, you sit down on a bench, and it's clean air. It just seems fresh because of all the plants. You've usually got ponds and lakes around you, fountains trickling water, the birds singing in the background. You just take 5 minutes and just be like, you know what? It was a bit of a shit week, but it's okay. And I don't half love that. Like a weekly reset. That's why I've been such a prick to you over the last 18 months. I've had no reset.
I've been dead nice to you lately. That I'm on like a bit of a reset now.
I know, Barry's like the nicest person in the world. He doesn't argue, doesn't bully anyone. He never takes the piss. He's like the nicest guy.
So who's he work for? You need to meet this Barry.
Yeah, there's more than one Barry in the world. You don't think I'm talking about you, do you? Fucking hell. You're like the Antichrist, you.
I'm on a reset, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, you're on like a spiritual. You're pretty cool, chilled out today. Right, before we finish, I said I wouldn't read this article before I read it out on the podcast, but Everest Fernandez's articles are normally an absolute belter, and I'm going to read it out. So it's not a growing article, so if you have got something better to be doing, then you're more than welcome to jump off now. I'm going to read this out. It'll probably take 5 minutes. And it's called 2048, If We Let Science Win. The life of an imbecile in 2048 is simultaneously secure and precarious. So let's see what Everest has got to say. Coatsy.
Can I relax?
Yeah, you can relax. Coatsy, put some music over this part. It might make it a bit easier to listen to rather than me just rabbiting on. So here we go. The life of an imbecile in 2048 is simultaneously secure and precarious, lacking the opportunity to exchange his time and energy for anything he regards as valuable. The imbecile's resulting lack of get up and go or professional ambition is now a moot point rather than a cause for greater social concern. Nobody is worried any longer about his lifelong productive dearth. Universal income gives him sufficient spending power to sustain himself comfortably and carelessly from week to week. His automatically accrued electronic tokens afford him the ability to purchase ready-cooked meals tailored specifically to his tastes. More on this in just a moment. At all hours, thousands of breakfasts, lunch, dinners and midnight snacks are created on demand in vast automated kitchen factories by row after row of whizzing robot arms. Once the components are mixed and assembled, the meals are irradiated, packaged, and delivered to the recipient's doors by squadrons of buzzing drones sanitizing their cargo as they fly, so that they arrive 100% bacteria and virus-free, guaranteed. Who would risk experimentation with the ancient art of home cooking in the light of all this safety and convenience? For this highly risk-averse generation, knowledge of even the most basic culinary practices is confined to erudition as exotic and rare as proficiency in Gothic calligraphy. Bonus credits are available when the imbecile manages to deposit the associated packaging from his meal into the appropriately coloured recycling unit. Virtual reality video games, movies, news, and other fictional works are streamed onto the imbecile's raft of entertainment devices 24/7. But wait, are you still watching? Here comes the science bit. His mental well-being is monitored and managed via a wireless neural interface integrated seamlessly into the walls of his living quarters. The tiny brain scanners, the most sensitive of which are located in his mattress, bedhead, and pillows, collect vast amounts of neurological and physical data while he sleeps. This data, arguably the most valuable thing the imbecile produces, is transmitted to well-being servers, running ever-evolving algorithms capable of detecting even the tiniest mental aberrances long before the imbecile is even aware of them. His next meal can be advantageously amended to include microdoses of tasteless, colourless, and odourless pharmacological additives to extinguish the genesis of any unwanted psychological manifestations.
Like this.
Perhaps as you try to
Be full of Viagra.
trust you to ruin a good story.
Viagra and a Valium. Hey!
Wifey. Perhaps.
You can't do it.
Reading on. Perhaps as you try to make sense of the imbecile's superior life with your tired, unassisted brain, you might try to consider the greater good it represents rather than limiting yourself with misplaced Luddite concern. Is it not a cause of celebration that depression, sadness, cynicism, loneliness, and melancholy are no longer a part of the imbecile's vocabulary? For millennia, he has been stalked by a legion of uncertainties. Why, only a few decades ago, his life was characterized by struggle, ever-present anxiety, and continual confusion in a perpetually stormy and inhospitable economic reality. What a somber contrast to this existential surety, contentment, and blue sky calm in 2048. Indeed, it could be strongly argued that an imbecile's life has never been more intrinsically worthwhile. No longer is he subjected to the indignity of repetitive manual labour in return for a pittance. Measured against any reasonable scale, it's undeniable that his existence's quality has been vastly improved. Free food and water, free shelter, free entertainment, free choice from the menu, free time to make the choice. So before you err into condescending pity for the imbecile, consider this. In return for this hard-won and preternatural gift of a happy, peaceful and carefree life on our overcrowded planet, is not a painless and non-surgical reduction in fertility a reasonable exchange? Without genetically modified crops, humanity would have been doomed to continual food shortages and inexorable conflict. Instead, our essential staples such as corn, soy, wheat, canola, potato and rice are now super efficiently produced on automated mega farms, enjoying greater resistance to pest and disease than ever before. Moreover, these are the only crops that are economically viable to grow. The fact that these crucial cultivars were also engineered to confer additional ecological benefits, namely the incremental lowering of sperm count and motility in human male consumers, was not widely known at the turn of the 21st century, and for good reason. Fertility had long been considered a desirable trait in both males and females, and as such, humans, even imbeciles, were hardwired to resist any notion of its diminution. After all, left unchecked, fertility surely would remain one of the few domains in which the imbecile has never been found wanting. A stark choice confronted our leaders in their speedy approach to planetary reformation. The third industrial revolution, along with the invention of synthetic nitrogen-based fertilizers, caused a population explosion. Whether you like it or not, we are all children of oil. But in the dawn of robotics and artificial intelligence, there persisted a surplus human residue left over from our 20th century endeavours. Homo vulgaris, as it was euphemistically coined, desperately needed to be controlled and eventually eradicated. But how could this be done in a modern, efficient and humane way? Inaction was no longer a viable option. Allowing Homo vulgaris to continually breed haphazardly and exponentially will prove catastrophically immoral in the light of the clear technological solution to hand. Only genetic engineering had the potential to untether humanity from its lingering lowest common denominators, providing the economically dependent with a safe and secure environment to quietly neuter themselves through the willful consumption of genetically engineered food is a world away from strong-arming people into gas chambers or subjecting them to forced sterilization. Perhaps we would do well to recall the words of Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes during the 1927 Supreme Court case Buck v. Bell, where he upheld a Virginia law that empowered the state authorities to surgically sterilize mental defectives without their consent. It is better for all the world if, instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime or to let them starve for their imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit for continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. As the global population peaked sharply, then declined throughout the 2020s and 2030s, it was inevitable that some bean-counting commentators, perhaps with their minds stuck in the darkest shadows of our history, made hyperbolic and alarmist accusations of global genocide. Fortunately, these worrisome and unhelpful voices were effectively isolated and quarantined across all social media platforms before they had any chance to contaminate the well-earned peace and serenity of the happy imbeciles. And if within the upper echelons of the managed population there remained a small number who retained their procreational desires despite the chemical coercion, there exists the option of specialised fertility treatments to enhance their chances of reproductive success significantly. Credit subject to status. If the world I have described sounds far-fetched and futuristic, please note that drones have been delivering poisonous pizzas to imbeciles for nearly half a decade. Moreover, if you follow the path of least cultural resistance and choose to eat the cheapest, nastiest crap that a bloated corporation is specifically designed to pass your fat, salt and sugar tick box taste test with flying artificial colours, then you are the appositely unwitting subject of this satire. In reality, nobody will mourn the removal of your genetics from the pool. You and your kind signed on the dotted line to be confined to the landfill of history along with the Neanderthals. If, on the other hand, you find my words disgusting and disturbing, I doff my cap to you respectfully. May we consider the words of the greatest monetary theorist, Edwin Regal. To desire freedom is an instinct. To secure it requires intelligence. It must be comprehended and self-asserted. To petition for it is to stultify oneself, for a petitioner is a confessed subject and lacks the spirit of a free man. To rail and rant against tyranny is to manifest inferiority, for there is no tyranny but ignorance. To be conscious of one's powers is to lose consciousness of tyranny. Self-government is not a remote aim. It is intimate and inescapable fact. To govern oneself is a natural imperative, and all tyranny is the miscarriage of self-government. The first requisite of freedom is to accept responsibility for the lack of it. If you resonate with the idea of governing yourself, it's time to return to wherever you left off. Whatever you do, please don't ask for permission or worry if you can afford it. A better future starts with a garden, even if it's just 10 square feet or a container on your balcony. Indoors, outdoors, organic, hydroponic, biodynamic, whatever. Find some space. Claim it. Collaborate, but please don't have meetings about it. You can dig and talk at the same time. Tell Everest about your growth plans. Send them emails at justforgrowers@gmail.com.
Wow, that sounded like a chapter out of the Bible.
I didn't realise it was that long.
Wow, fuck me. I don't know what any of that meant, but I like the bit about where it's reading your fucking mind, if that's like in the bed.
What, you want to be in bed with a chip in your head and it just knows what to deliver?
But lad, at the end of the day, mate, if there was a chip in the bed and you were having thoughts while you were asleep and it was picking them thoughts up, it could be, if it weren't just picking thoughts up, it could have been picking illnesses up and treating you for something that, woof, I'm going to make, there's a milligram of that in him. If that gets left untreated for 6 months, that's cancer, let's say. So, yeah, I'm all for it, lad.
Do you know what the problem
Plus
is?
it knows I want loads of Viagra, Valium. And if it knows I wake up with a big hard on in the morning, it give me a cheeky wank. It's like that, yeah, he's dreaming of Baywatch gang. That's it.
Do you know what the problem
Fire
is?
and lube out from a little tube in the ceiling. No, just delete all that. It was a bit heavy.
No, we're not deleting any of that. So, to round up, you know what my concern is?
What?
That I don't trust governments. And They are out for themselves. Everyone's out for themselves,
Lad,
no matter what you say.
Listen.
But you know what worries me? Don't interrupt.
Not everyone.
No,
listen.
Don't interrupt me.
Nah, I'm
Because
going to have
what
to
worries
because
me?
see
What
the
worries me?
engineer.
No, I'm not letting you talk. I'm not letting you talk, Barry.
The
because I need
engineer
to
is out
finish
for
what
himself.
I'm saying.
You're out for yourself, and I'm out for
I've
myself.
just said
And do you
that.
know why?
Because your own
we're not here.
self-interest.
No, we're not here for a long time, lad.
We're here for a good time.
We're here for a good time, but let's average everyone's age out at 80 years. After that, lad, you're dead for thousands of years, lad.
No, not thousands, Barry.
Millions and billions and trillions. You're never coming back. It's end of history, mate.
Infinite.
So you're here for a fucking... My missus says to me, be in the garden, you'll see her shooting shine. She goes, like, that's how quick life goes. The rest of the world just keeps going, lad. You with that shooting star, mate, that's all you wait. Only a few people seeing you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's true, lad. You're not here for a long time. You're here for a good time. And I think it's right that you should think about yourself and not think about others. If you want to go all dramatic and fucking,
let's just not even do dramatic.
And gaily or whatever.
No, let's just keep it
I'm a
real.
man's man, and
let's just keep it real.
You be kind to people and you treat people how you want to be treated and all that. You know what I mean? Yeah, but
if anyone says they treat somebody else better than
they treat themselves, then I'd say you need to go home and have a fucking word with yourself, then, lad. Because you are number one.
You come first.
Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
Yeah.
You are number one. Because, and if that seems selfish to anyone that's listening, let me put it this way to you. I am a workaholic. I love work. I love running the business.
And what do I constantly say about it?
Let me finish. And that can cause strife, can't it, in relationships. But I've also been through times in my life where I didn't have lots of things going on. And I wasn't horrible, but I felt like a horrible person. I had no direction. I had nothing going on. If I'm not in a good place, how can I support other people? So if you're not in a good place, how can you support other people? How can you be there as a husband or a father or a brother?
Or a sister.
Or a sister.
Or a mum.
So you absolutely do come first, because if you don't put yourself first, you can't be there for somebody else. And that's it. But what I was going to say is...
And that's not talking about your nan or your mum or your daughter who's maybe got something wrong with them and they've got an illness. They come first.
They are you.
Yeah, they are you. They do come first with you. But
yeah. That's probably what I need to clean up a little bit.
Yeah.
When I talk about you as a person...
It's you and your family there.
Yeah, your children are you. They are you. And your partner is you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So look after you so you can look after them. But obviously, your kids always come first. I was having this chat with somebody else from the industry, and we were just saying the same thing. Like, some people hate on you because you're poor. Like, you're in a business to make money, to look after your family.
Yeah.
And if anyone says that there's something wrong with that, then they just they probably haven't got kids. Do you know what I mean?
They probably just have got life all muddled up, mate.
Yeah.
Life, and it's sad. And we all do it, lad. And people go, oh, you don't need money to be happy. And you don't need this to be happy. Well, I'm happier in my car with my kids having a conversation than being stood at the bus stop in the pissing down rain, mate, having a conversation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So money is everything, lad. It is. That's the world's run on it, lad. And it's not a sad thing, because I don't know no different, because I'm not from a generation of... I weren't born fucking hundreds of years ago where there was no money. It's like kids of today was having this conversation in the shop with Jalal today, and I swear you can ask him, lad, tomorrow. We were buzzing. We've got a young lad who works in the shop, Morgan. Some of you might know him from the industry. And Morgan's only 23. I'm nearly 40, lad. And Jalal's the same, and we were saying to him, listen, lad, we've grew up in the whole of what I know. We've grew up in the best generation.
100%.
1,000,000%. Growing up in the 80s and early 90s is like, lad, nothing is ever going to beat that. I was saying to Morgan, like, Christmas Day, you don't see kids playing out in the street. You don't see kids on the brand new BMXs, the brand new mountain bikes, scooters, skateboards, or just playing out in general. You don't see it. What you see is a kid in the bus stop not on Christmas Day, or you see a kid sat next to a mate or sat next to his mate texting each other. There's no communication between. It's like everything is just internet. But that is as well. I don't hate it.
You can't.
Because that's just the way the world's going. It's like you've just been saying the chip in the head board.
But
That's just the way the world's going. But I'm
my
glad
dad
I grew up in the
disagree with you.
I'm glad I grew up in the generation that I did, where kids,
Your dad would disagree with you.
kids played out and no.
Yeah, because they'd say the best generation to grow up was the 60s.
Why?
Because you asked them, I guarantee you.
Nah,
Your mum and dad
and
my mum, they're both
yeah, but
similar
I'll
ages.
disagree with them, and I'll make a good point of in the 60s, food, clothes, gas, lecky, warmth, dryness, everything like that was more scarce than what it is now, lad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was more scarce than what it is now.
It's a complicated
It's not
thing to do. It is
complicated, it's just a fact that
because listen to this.
even from when I'm saying now I was raised in the 80s, nearly 90s as
and
a
you were
kid.
out in the street. And
And I
how
was
many
out
mates
sitting,
did you
no,
have?
but listen. Now, people in 2023 would look and say, 2030 and say, yeah, man, the fucking streets are heated now. No one goes cold. It's better.
Yeah.
But it's different. I just think I grew up in the era, mate,
You've
that
got
was
your
like,
perspective.
kids played
if you-
out. It was physical. It was
Try and
the
pull yourself.
games in the street, man. Fucking Manhunt, Kichter, Can Kirby, fucking what's it called? British Bulldog. Fucking, you played out, man. You know what I mean?
Well, let me try and change the
Climbed
perspective a little
trees,
bit.
you fell off trees, mate. You broke your leg, you broke your arm, you fucking
Let me try
cut
and
your
change the
finger
perspective.
doing your mountain bike
Because
fucking
it's all
chain.
about
and
perspective. Because if you ask somebody
I
else
asked
your
Morgan,
age,
you know, when I was
no,
8.
let me ask somebody
Go on.
else your age who wasn't. Might have grown up in your street. You never knew about them because they didn't have the confidence to play out in the street.
Yeah, but
So
now
they
you're
didn't
talking.
have-
No.
They didn't have
You're
friends.
you're going on about something.
And now
that happened in the
there's kids-
60s, 70s, 80s,
Yeah,
90s.
now there's kids who
and
play
that will
computer
still.
games who've got 50 mates. Some of
Yeah,
them, do you know what I mean? And they live a much
that's a
better
different.
life.
That's just
There's
different.
always a different perspective to
No.
look at. There's always
Nah,
a
man.
different angle.
There's not.
There is.
There's not.
There's your
There's not.
perspective,
And
and
that's
then
it.
there's a
It
million
stops
other
there.
perspectives.
It stops there, lad. I
Nope.
grew up in the best generation ever. I did.
In your opinion,
No, 1,000,000% I did. I did.
I think there's a. I think what we'll do is we'll continue this discussion on next week's
There isn't a
episode.
discussion, lad.
There is. There's
How
a
old
very good
engineer?
discussion.
How old are you? 38. Is it the best
Are
years of
you
your life?
38?
Looks
Wow.
rough him, innit?
Really?
It's all right, Steve. Fucking hell, lad. Make him feel great.
I am. I thought he was well younger than that.
Oh.
Shit.
Oh, I thought he was older.
What a fucking ass. Did you know he's fucking 47?
Listen, I look well older than... I'm 38.
I know
I
you look well older than
older.
47.
I have had a bad paper on, lad, let me tell you.
You're 38 and you're 38. Both same age. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I've had
Mental.
my paper on was Queen's Drive, both sides. Running through the traffic.
For everyone that's not from Liverpool, Queen's Drive is one of the busiest roads
Yeah.
probably in the country.
But nah, it was. I
What
don't know
we'll
why
do
we've
is,
got
you know
onto
what-
that subject, but
You know what we're going
It
to do?
was,
Because
lad.
I don't like, obviously, people listen to this.
listen,
to
lad,
grow.
just
Next
pull up,
episode-
go home now. When you drive home, if you see a bus, pull up alongside it and watch everyone on that bus doing, lad.
Wear a
Any ma-
mask.
No, irrelevant from wearing the mask, dickhead. Everyone is tuned into the phones. Kid, it.
You know what
These
they were doing?
phones
Guess what they were doing 20
ruin
years ago?
relationships, lad.
They're all reading
They just-
newspapers.
Nah,
They weren't
lad.
sat next to each other having a good old
Listen.
gab with 30 people going, all right, what's
Nah,
your name?
Just
I've never
do
met you."
anything. Just
They were reading the newspaper.
everything is
The-
phones. Lad, I cannot get you off your phone.
I use it for work.
No,
I do
you use
not
it
have,
for work, but the minute you wake up in the morning, bam, phone.
So do you.
And look, I understand it.
No, I do it for a reason. I don't look at
and then
information.
look, whether you're looking at fucking porn or texting
No,
your mate or whatever. Listen,
No.
what I'm not saying,
To
I'm
the
not
blue
saying
light.
that. I'm saying I understand it, lad. That's the way the world's gone. And it's not a bad thing, like the microchip in the head, but finding illnesses before you even have a bit of sickness. It's already found it, and it's sending food to you with the fucking shit you need in it, the proteins or whatever that you need to fix yourself. I understand it, lad. And I know it's good. I'm just saying,
In your opinion.
in my opinion, I grew up in the best, and that's a mic drop for me. and I'm done, lad.
I think we continue this debate next week
I don't.
on another podcast 228. And it's not going to be a horticultural podcast because I am warning you all listeners. Me and Barry, we are diverging a little bit. We're going to always talk about growing, but a lot of the messages that we get are like when you went off on the rant at the end of the podcast. That was boss. We really enjoyed that. So you will be getting a bit more of it, but I disagree.
How do you disagree?
Were
you the kid who was lonely? Because you were born in the fucking same era as me.
I'll tell you next week.
Was you the kid who was lonely?
Maybe I was. I'll tell you next week.
Do you know what I mean?
On next week's episode of NPK
You should be
Live.
you're roughly the same age, a few years
22
younger.
I'm well younger than you old bastard.
That's all right, lad.
Podcast 228.
I've had a better life than you. I've had a better life than you.
You've had more years to have a better life than me, so I
mate, I grew up in certain years which was better than you.
What, 83, 84,
Listen,
85,
if anyone's
86.
out there now who grew up as a kid...
Everyone grew up as a kid.
No, listen to me, who grew up as a youth in the 80s and early 90s, just tell me that they weren't the best years. Just tell me that. There's a song, someone bent me on a song, loads of people agree with me, lad, who are my age.
I know,
there's
because
a song,
do you know why? There's a psychological reason for it.
Listen. Go on YouTube. Do you know what? Should get Coatsy to play the song at the end of this. There's a song on YouTube, right? Type it in on YouTube, the iPad song. Type the iPad song in. Just called the iPad song. Type that song in and listen to it and tell me that you're not amazing and you didn't grow up in the same era as me and it was sick.
And I will speak to you about this next week.
Yeah, man.
For everyone listening, you absolute marathoners, well done. And I'll see you all next week. Podcast 228. And me and Barry will be back talking shit. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
In a bit.